Normally when I'm recording one of these videos, it's because I'm missing D&D and it's been like a month since I played D&D and I'm craving it so much. But ironically, or well, funnily enough, this time I actually have a D&D session planned, and it's 2 days from now, from the recording and publishing of this video, which is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that and all the shenanigans that are going to happen. But anyways, this is the Dragon's Last Flight, and I assume if you watch my videos, you know why I like this. I like fantasy. I like just fiction, and I like this. It's art style looks cool, and it seems like a really good story. So if you're gonna watch this, please kick back, relax, get a snack and a drink, and hope you enjoy this video. Yeah, and thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing that. That's awesome. I have followed a trail of feathers and scales from an impossible source. When I was told what I would find out here in the woods, I did not fully believe it. And when I began to spot the old signs I remembered well, even after so many years, still I doubted it. Yet here is the proof that the woman who hired me spoke truly. Dragons do exist. Oh, that's a dragon. It has been nearly 2 decades since anyone reported a sighting. I haven't laid eyes on a living dragon since before I lost Aurelia. If she were gone by my... Oh, if she were by my side, if I could, again, breathe properly, but I can't. Oh, no. If she were by my side, I wonder what she would say to see a dragon alive and breathing after so long. But not for much longer. I was not hired simply to find a dragon. I was hired to slay it. I creep closer to the sleeping dragon, stepping carefully to avoid snapping twigs and crunching leaves beneath my boots. It is unusual to see a dragon sleeping soundly out in the open in the middle of the day. Perhaps it has not seen my kind in many years, as I have not seen a dragon. Maybe it has grown complacent. Weirdly enough, I've recently really liked the word complacent. Like I've noticed that every few months or so, or like every other month, I seem to have this like preference to a word, or like I really like a word. And since February, I've really liked the word complacent. I don't know why. It's just a really nice word to say, to feel in the mouth, and to say it out loud. And it's really weird to describe it like that, but it's just a nice word. Then again, this is no youth prone to folly. The fading sheen of her plumage and the battle scars she bears tell me she is at least 200 years old. Like me, she has survived against long odds to see the twilight of her years. Yet, here she is, lying vulnerable outside her cave without so much as a flight of fellow dragons to protect her. In D&D at least, dragons are very territorial, sort of like, I would say wolves, but wolves have like packs. But dragons are very solitudous creatures, and they have territories, and they protect their territories, and they're very ferocious and stuff like that. And that's just really interesting. How, yeah, I mean, normally we see dragons as these big, large creatures, and that's why we think that there would only be like one of them in their territory because they're big. And normally in nature, when something is that big, you don't really have you don't see many of them in a pack. Well, actually, you do. Never mind. I'm stupid. Moose, like rhinos, and the things that killed Mufasa in Lion King. I'm sorry, spoilers for Lion King for those who haven't seen it. It's been years. You should have seen it by now. But so it's not necessarily true. But yeah, but they could be like, depending on your lore, depending on your story, they could totally be creatures that could be in that could have like flocks and stuff like that. I think that would be a very interesting and fun world to be in. Yeah. Or is she? What if she is not vulnerable at all, but only wishes me to think her so? A trap. I am walking right into a trap. I crouch down deep in the foliage, eyes on the sky. I see nothing but a hawk passing by in lazy loops and a handful of fluttering dragonflies. I think back to the signs I followed, the tracks that led me here. A feather here, a scale there, a burnt patch of grass and a damaged tree. Nothing to suggest a full flight of dragons live here. And yet, something about this feels wrong. Are you going to make me wait all day, dragonslayer? A voice in my head startles me, low and gravelly and yet distinctly feminine. It winds its way through my mind like fog, creeping in through the cracks between my thoughts. Oh, he's very cool dragon. I love the dragon. He's very cute but ferocious. And no, he's so cool. It's very cool. I like dragon. I like the dragon very much. I know you are there. Come out and finish what you have started. Damn, so much for stealth. Just like in D&D, stealth is never an option. Bards and artists love to paint dragon slayers as warriors in shining armor, leaping into battle head on. It is a pretty picture, but not a very realistic one. Any slayer worth his shield knows better than to risk open combat unless he has no other option. A dragon slayer's greatest virtue is not courage, it is stealth. Unfortunately, it seems I have lost the element of surprise, but there is no turning back now. A dragon slayer never abandons his quest. I brace myself for what could well be my final battle. My strategy is to I will do a quick short rest before I read the next. Okay. Draw her towards the trees where I can shoot her with a poisoned arrow. Regain the element of surprise by rushing her head on with my sword and shield. That's it. No. Distract her with talk and I'll sneak around behind her. I feel like that's a good thing to do, but it requires me to talk more though. Instead, we must open our minds to allow the dragons to read our thoughts for themselves. Dragon slayers rarely study this technique, but my wise wife insisted that it would be useful someday. Thank you, wife! It is a dangerous strategy. If I'm not careful, the dragon may glimpse my inner thoughts and suss out my plan. But it may also be my last remaining chance to catch her off guard. In my mind's eye, I picture myself unlocking a chest. Then opening it. As I do, the dragon's presence floods my mind. Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer. What gave you that impression? I take one soft, quiet step at a time, walking as if on cat's feet. An odd sound rumbles from the dragon's throat. Laughter? Hard to say. I've never heard a dragon laugh before. Who else would dare wake a sleeping dragon? My deepest apologies, I never meant to disturb your slumber. I believe you, because, technically I didn't want to. I wanted to kill it to put it in eternal slumber, but, I have not reached my target yet. I need more time. I struggle to keep the conversation going. It has been some time since I have last seen your kind. Really? And why do you suppose that is, Dragon Slayer? There's a lethal edge to her voice now. The discomfort it causes is almost physical, a blade tracing the inside of my skull. I imagined it was because there was none left. Yet here you are. Yes, here I am. The edge in her voice softens. It has been a long time for me, too. Since you have seen a dragon, I am close to where I need to be. She's on her feet now, but she has not moved. If she stays put a little longer, I might succeed after all. Indeed, nearly half a century by my count. I hesitate for a moment. 50 years? A long time to be alone, by human standards. It really is fascinating how time can be different for different creatures because we experience time through moment to moment, and for us, every minute, every month, every day, every year, every decade, all that matters because, we live for 80, 90, 100 odd years. But for creatures that live thousands and hundreds of hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, to them time would work very differently. And I watched Free Ren last year, and it was really interesting, and it was just a really fun show, obviously, but also it was interesting to see how a being who lives, let's say, 1,000,000 years, they would really develop slowly, both emotionally, psychologically, and all of it. And it's really interesting to see how it would affect a being, their thought processes, and the things that they would do. And who's to say that, you know, like creatures who do live really, really long, like there are sea creatures that have lived so long that they've like that they have outlived, not very long outlived, obviously they've outlived like other people, but they were there during the time of the Roman Empire, or even before that. And it's interesting to think about how they would perceive time. Like for them, a day didn't matter as much as it would to us. For us, each day matters, but for them, it wouldn't matter as much. And I've always been interested in time, space, and time, and it's just been interesting to think about both the physical reality of time, but also the psychological parts of time. And yeah, it's just really, really fascinating to think about how time would be different, not only physically because of relativity and all that, but also just in general, but due to your lifespan and stuff around related to time. It's a very fascinating thing to think about, and yeah. But she's not human, I remind myself. What about your flight? What happened to your kin? She growls, a deep, low sound that echoes through the very marrow of my bones. A dragonslayer should know better than to ask. I'm Thaui. I should not have asked. Finally, I'm in a position. Keeping within her blind spot, I take leave of the woods and begin to advance. The dragon roars. Enough of this. Come and face me. Startling through her outburst, my training keeps me from giving myself away. I'll continue to silent my advance silently. Unfortunately, the local wildlife had no such training. A nearby flock of crows say, "Damn it, crows! We had talked about this to not let me go like this!" Screaming out a cacophonous chorus. The dragon's head swivels around. Our eyes meet. It is now or never. I dodge out of my way just in time as her long scaly tail sweeps past me. Keeping my head low, I race towards her. If I'm quick enough, I can drive my blade between her ribs by piercing the soft, vulnerable flesh where her wings meet her torso. It is a long shot, but it is also my only hope of survival. She spins around to face me. I dodge another near-fatal blow, this time from one of the two claws at the end of her wings. As her wings lift up, I duck down under it. I lunge for her side, sword up and ready to impale her. I'm a beat too slow, or perhaps she knew all along what I meant to do. I miss my mark as she shifts her weight. My sword draws blood, but it is only a scratch. 'Tis only a scratch wound! As she turns, her tail sweeps my legs out from under me, and I stumble and fall. I scramble to my feet and flee towards a nearby boulder, but it is an empty gesture. I will be charcoal before I reach cover. Wait! Hold up. I just realized. This is an old man, and that's an old dragon, which is a female. Perhaps romance? Perhaps? The faces of my loved ones flash through my mind's eye. My daughter and her family, my friends in the village. Aurelia, I will see you soon, my love. A huge rushing roar of raging heat comes coursing towards me. This is it. This is how I die. Something hits the ground hard behind me, and the tiny flames spring up in the grass around my boots as I run. I dive behind the boulder with little more than singed clothes and hot feet. Somehow, I am alive. It feels like the DM was like, no, I can't end the story just yet, and threw a curveball. But how? I should be a pile of ash and bone. I was an easy target. How could she have possibly missed me? That same nagging doubt I felt earlier returns to me, tripled in strength. Something is very wrong here. What are you playing at, dragon? Playing? What makes you think this is a game? Stop toying with me. Why am I still alive? Call it fate, call it fortune, call it whatever you like. It matters not. But it does. I'm missing something vital. She knows I aim to kill her. She's fighting back, but not fighting for her life. Is it a trap? Or is she toying with her food before she eats it? Most elder dragons are wiser than that. But after such a long life, perhaps she has grown bored. Or else she wants to keep me alive for some other purpose. Something wrong, assassin. Dragon got your tongue. I like that. She is baiting me. She has been baiting me all along. She wants to fight, but she wants me alive. This makes no sense. I grow weary of your games, dragon. I am old, I am tired. What if I walk away from this fight? What if I retreat? She snarls, her tail whipping back and forth. I can hear it whistling through the air as it sails from one side to another. You would not dare. It would tarnish your good name and the honor of your guild brothers and sisters. In truth, the honor of my once noble guild tarnished long ago. Many resigned from the guild when the dragons disappeared. Those of us who did not learn to keep our blades sharp and our pockets full as sellswords. We are a little better now than common mercenaries. Are you so eager to fight? I would have thought my offer would come as a relief. You could sleep in peace once more. Until you kill me in my sleep or return with reinforcements, do you take me for a fool? I have not yet seen your kind in many years, but I know. But that does not mean I have forgotten your wish. Yeah, my throat's dying. I'm really sorry about that. I do not dare underestimate her. No dragonslayer who misjudges his opponent lives to tell the tale. She is up to something. Of that I am certain. But what is she planning? I cannot fathom. I need answers, but what is the right question? I will save! DM! I need to do a quick save. Don't worry about it. You didn't know what that means, DM. That's why I want her to stay alive. Old woman. What if she was the old woman? Oh, okay. Who is the woman who wants you dead? What? That seems to stop the dragon in her tracks. What are you talking about? The silver-haired woman who told me where to find you. She knew exactly where you slept. She wore a hood and kept to the shadows, but I glimpsed her face. She bore a dragon's kiss on her right cheek. A kiss? A scar. I know the mark of dragonfire when I see it. What is her connection to you? The dragon laughs, a hollow, empty sound. You have a habit of overthinking things, Dragonslayer. I know her not. You told me you have not seen a human in years, and yet this woman who was able to provide precise directions to your lair. She claimed she saw you herself, and I myself have seen no evidence of any prior altercations here. No other Dragonslayers have passed this way in quite some time. It is likely she told me the truth, that no one but she has been this way. But what would such an old woman be doing traveling all the way out here on her own? And how did a vigilant dragon such as yourself not notice her coming and going? What are you suggesting, Dragonslayer? I am suggesting that you are tired of your lonely and old life and you want to go out in honor, is what I'm suggesting. To be honest, I am not sure. But there is more to this story than meets the eye. I assume the woman wanted you dead for the usual reasons, but now you question her motives. I question my reason for being here. She laughs again, but there's something gentler in it this time. Pity? Or sympathy? A large question to be sure. One few find the answer to. I sigh. You know what I mean. Why did she send me here? I have no idea. I don't either, because I'm dumb. Hee hee hee. Ha ha ha. Who. But what does it matter? You, a Dragonslayer, have found your quarry. And I, a dragon, am about to reduce your pathetic little human body to cinders. What are you going to do about... Sorry, wrong voice. What are you going to do about it? I shake my head. For all I know, this is a trap. Whether laid by the dragon or the woman who sent me here. Or perhaps even both. I cannot say. Nor do I have time to think it over. I can hear the dragon drawing closer step by step. I need time. Time to think. And time to decide what my next move is. Dragonslayers put their ultimate purpose, the slaying of dragons, above all other causes. But if I walk blindly into the web of lies, I might fail to fulfill that purpose and throw my life away in the process. I cannot do that. For the sake of my daughter, my family, it is my duty to stay alive. Turning tail and running goes against everything I stand for as a Dragonslayer. It sickens me to even consider it. But something about this fight has me feeling uneasy. I cannot shake the sense that I am missing something, and such an oversight could cost me my life. If I am swift enough, I can take shelter in the depths of the woods where the denser brush will slow her down. I say a silent prayer, asking the gods to watch over my journey until I can return home to my family. Then I sprint for the nearest cover, a large old tree with the width of 3 men, standing shoulder to shoulder. Oh, Hot breath scalds the back of my neck as jaws come crashing shut behind me. Another lucky miss. I do not wait for a third. I rage to the next tree, and then the next. The dragon unleashes a furious roar, stomping craters into the earth as she pursues me. I do not look back, and I do not stop. I run until her footsteps and the crashing of felled trees fades to a whisper, until her cries are no more than echoes, haunting my retreat. Even when I can no longer hear the dragon's call, I keep moving. Not until the sun has met the far horizon do I finally reach my camp. Here, a humble tent and my remaining rations wait for me. I fill my stomach with a simple meal of bread, cheese, and wine. That was very quick, damn. Oh. I light a tiny campfire, large enough only to warm my hands by. I do not dare start a proper fire. Smoke could alert the dragon to my position, and there's no telling how tenacious she might be. For all I know, she searches for me still. Dragons and humans have been enemies since time immemorial. No one remembers who started it. Dragons, of course, blame us mortals. Yet human records speak of dragons preying on humans years before we struck our first blow. I have long suspected that the truth lay somewhere between the two extremes. But the past is no longer pertinent. All that matters now is who strikes the final blow. The dragon may be the last of her kind. It is likely she has only survived this long by sequestering herself away in the mountains. Yet she let me live, even when killing me was the only sure guarantee I would keep her presence a secret. And there is one other thing to consider. The woman who told me where to find the dragon. She approached me a fortnight ago at a local tavern. She said she knew me for a dragonslayer by my eyes. Said you could tell a dragon killer from the fire in his gaze. I don't see any fire in my gaze at all. I'm so sorry. I know I'm supposed to be like a dragonslayer, but I'm an old man now. I want to live with my barrels of ale and victory under my belt and just live a peaceful life of do nothing. I suppose it was more likely she recognized the guild crest on my shield, but I did not argue the point. She told me what sounded like a tall tale of a lone dragon, concealed in the shadows of the mountains. She claimed that she saw it with her own eyes. Because she looked at a mirror and she transformed into a human, as some dragons could do. I refrained from laughing in her face, though a lesser man might have done just that. It seemed so unlikely at the time, until I noticed her scars. I asked if there was anyone who could corroborate her story. She told me no, that no one else knew of the dragon's whereabouts, but she begged me to believe her. She gave me a feather as proof. It was a dragon feather. There was no mistaking the texture or the markings. The most probable explanation was that she purchased it from a collector's shop. Her marked face and the hint of desperation in her pleas kept me from questioning her further. I swear on my life, she said. There's at least one last dragon left in this world, and the world will be better for it when she is gone. Please, will you help me? Yeah, so the dragon is probably a bit depresso. If her dragon was real, it was my duty to slay it. If not, well, there were worse things than spending a few quiet days alone in the woods. So I accepted her quest. She promised to tell me where to find the dragon, but not before extracting yet one more wow from me. I had to wait 7 days before I began my hunt. When I asked why, she said it was because she had family traveling through the mountains. She was worried if I disturbed the dragon too soon, her kin would be caught in the cross. Oh, so maybe she's like very old and maybe she has like actual dragon kids, and then they were like leaving or something like that. Maybe. Oh, yeah, okay, fair. When I asked where her family was headed, she would not say, but she insisted I needed to wait, and I agreed to do so. I mean, the dragon did say that she hasn't seen any other dragon in 50 years, so maybe she just needed time to transform or something? Maybe in this world, dragons take time to transform into a human? It takes like 7 days to transform back and forth, maybe? Once I convinced her that I would keep my word, she gave me the directions she had promised. She offered to pay me up front. It was unusual, but I accepted. I planned to give most of the money to my daughter and her family before I embarked on my quest, just in case. As our strange meeting drew to a close, she did the oddest thing of all. She smiled and thanked me. beaming with what looked like immense relief, as if I had already slain the dragon in question. Her golden eyes gleamed in the candlelight like two miniature suns. I stared into the flickering flame of my meager fire, remembering and wondering. People tell all sorts of tales about dragons. Despite our long history with them, the only thing we know for certain is how to kill them. My wife Aurelia, used to find this old stories fascinating. She believed that every legend contained at least a single grain of truth. She decided that she would discover these truths by investigating one myth at a time. One legend she could never prove or disprove to her satisfaction involved transmorgification. It is said that dragons can shapeshift. Some believe dragons can take any form they choose. So in D&D, rules as written, metallic dragons can transform into humans. They can transform into humans and mate with humans, or humanoids, not humans. And they can transform back into dragons. The chromatic dragons, the colored dragons, blue, green, white, red. Well, those cannot transform into dragons, and they're mostly the evil kind. So it's interesting how the good dragons in D&D can transform into humanoids, but the eviler ones can't. And to talk about the myths thing, in most stories, it is true that there's always a grain of truth, and it's fascinating to think about, because when I was a kid, I realized, my mom told me, but I realized that so many movies, and whether it's fiction, fantasy, or any kind of movie, it started with an inspiration from somewhere, and that started from somewhere, and that had a start point where someone did something for that inspiration to happen. And for me, I thought of that because there was a friend in the family who was going through family issues and stuff like that, and it was very TV show-esque, the stuff that was happening, and I was discussing that with my mother, and I realized that the TV shows which do the family dramas and stuff, I mean, obviously, in modern times, it's inspired from other TV shows, other stories, and obviously real life as well. But the ones that started that way back when, it started because there was a grain of inspiration from things that happened in real life, and it's fascinating to think about how so many things in life are started as an inspiration that happened by other humans and things that they did. It's just really funny to me, and it's really fascinating at the same time. Just how things can transform, change, and grow, and we don't know where it started from. And that we're all, in a way, life is comical in that way, where you can look at it in one way that is comical, and other ways dramatic. And yeah, sorry, my brain power is shutting down slowly, so I'm making less and less sense, but I assume you understand what I mean, viewer, listener. Other sources claim that dragons developed the ability to disguise themselves as humans as a sort of magical camouflage. I've heard tell of villagers discovering dragons in their midst. They executed the alleged dragons before they transformed back into their bestial selves. I never believed the stories myself. It grieves me to imagine how many innocent people may have burnt at the stake because of such malicious superstitions. And yet, I've never seen a human with eyes that shade of gold, the same shimmering hue, if not shape, as the dragons. Wait, what? It wasn't gold, it was like turquoise. Never mind, it was gold. I am sorry. I am a terrible dungeon master and player, and I can't remember the basic details of things. Oh no, I'm a terrible player. The scars are the same too. Could it be that the woman I spoke of with and the dragon she sent me back to seek are one and the same? Dun dun dun! Oh yeah. And she is. What does that mean for me, for my quest? As a dragonslayer, I am bound by my creed to protect humans from dragons at all costs. Yet we were also once bound to ideals like honor, integrity, and generosity of spirit. If dragons can take human form, are they so different from us after all? A question my wife spent her life investigating. A question which I, for the sake of my livelihood, could not allow myself to ask. Until now. I spent the majority of the night lost in my thoughts, The campfire burns out long before I finally lay down to sleep. With dawn comes a measure of clarity, at least. I do not have all the answers to my questions, but I am willing to take the time to discover them. Patience, as Aurelia once loved to remind me, is a virtue. I'm not going to slay this dragon, not until I have the answers I seek. But first, I will have to convince the dragon to not kill me for yesterday's retreat. The sound of beating wings above my forest canopy tells me I will not need to travel far to find her.
I smell you, dragonslayer. Your camp reeks of smoke and sweat. What kind of coward runs away from a fight before first blood is drawn?
Didn't I draw blood? I remember there was like blood by my scratch. Yeah, I drew blood. Ha! Take that, liar. She circles lower. She must have spotted me. Dragons have sharper vision than even the greatest eagles. I stand up. There's no point in hiding now. The dragon's mouth opens, ready to render me to ashes. It is now or never. I say the first thing that comes to mind. What is your name? She makes an inelegant hacking sound, as if she is choking or something. She lands, less than graceful, in the largest spaces between the trees she can find. Several branches crash to the ground around her as she stares at me.
What did you say?
I asked for your name. I'm known as Marius, but you already knew that. It only seems fair I know yours, now that I have seen both your faces. She folds her wings and lowers her head, bringing her gaze more level with mine.
You recognized me, as changed as I am.
I was not certain until now. I never thought the stories were true.
Some are gross exaggerations, many pure fabrications, but there are gems of truth hidden here and there among the fairy of gold. Does it matter? Your quest remains unchanged. You were sent to kill a dragon, and you have found her.
Or rather, she found me. She inclines her head.
Indeed. Well, dragonslayer, shall we continue our dance?
We are old people. Can we just sit down, relax, have some tea? That's way better than tangling with the tango wango, you know? Actually, I wonder if we might postpone that to a later date. She stiffens, her eyes flash, glinting like golden daggers in the light.
Why would I consent to that?
You've survived for at least a century or two. What harm could it do to wait a few more days? She's seething now. I can almost feel the heat of her anger radiating off of her. I've never been hired by a dragon before. It is unprecedented, to say the least. I wish simply to understand.
What is there to understand? I am a dragon and you are a killer. My life is yours to take. It is that simple.
We have both lived long enough to know that nothing is ever that simple.
Perhaps you are right. But tell me, Dragonslayer Marius, is there any reason I should not simply kill you now and find a more willing slayer to take your place?
I will remember you. Because it would be inconvenient. Because it would be a waste of life. Because I can offer you something they will not. Because you're not cruel at heart. I think that's just honesty.
Flattery will get you nowhere, dragon.
You are blushing. I see the blush there, dragon. It is not flattery, merely fact. If you were a cruel dragon, you would have not been hiding out here in the mountains, keeping to yourself. You would have laid waste to my village long ago, and as many more as you could reach before an arrow or blade brought you down. She bows her head.
An interesting observation. But in that case, I must ask, what do you get out of this deal? Why delay the inevitable? The sooner you complete your quest, the sooner you may return home to your bed.
Not to mention my family, but I cannot, in good consciousness, strike her down just yet. And education. It is rare that a human and a dragon have an exchange that is not violent.
Are you a scribe then too? Do not look so surprised. You humans were not the only ones taking notes on your adversaries' weaknesses. Do you think we dragons would have survived as long as we did without paying close attention?
Scribes rarely accompany dragon slayers during hunts. They're not trained for combat. Most remained sequestered within the guild's scriptorium. They relied on the Dragonslayers' observations for their research. Many live there still, sifting through old documents for new insights. But a few prefer to conduct their researches in person. These field scribes learn to surpass even the Dragonslayers in stealth, to make up for their lack of combat skills. They had to, if they wanted to survive to tell the tales they ought to collect. The dragons knew of them, and bothered to discover their purpose is startling. I'm not a scribe, but I knew of one once who was very interested in learning about your kind. She sought the truth rather than proof of foregone conclusions. I suppose she was a bit of a bad influence on me. The dragon looks less than impressed, but for reasons unknown to me, she nods. Very well. I will allow you your odd request in exchange for one thing. And what is that? Your word, a sacred vow on your honor that you will fulfill your original promise to me. That when the day comes that I ask you to end my life, you will do so without hesitation. You will strike hard and true and allow me at last the respite I have yearned and earned many times over. She asked me to do nothing I have not already agreed to. But she has hit upon what she must know to be a particular weakness among my kind. My honor. A sacred vow cannot be broken under any circumstances. To do so would be to dishonor my guild, and my kin. And yet, what harm is there in agreeing? And all roads will no doubt lead to one, or both of us dying regardless. Well, Dragonslayer, what do you say? I bow my head. Very well. I agree to your terms. The dragon narrows her eyes. Swear it. I want to hear you say the words. I nod and kneel, offering my blade with the customary formality of befitting a true sacred vow. I swear upon my honor and my eternal soul that when the day comes I will not falter. By my hand, so will your life be ended. She regards me for a moment until I wonder if she is going to kill me after all. Finally, she nods and relaxes her stance. I suppose you are right. I have waited a lifetime already. A few more days are nothing in comparison. Really, I did the thing. I went back forward. She stretches her wings and bends her legs in preparation for flight. Wait, where are you going? To feed. I am hungry. Fear not, Dragonslayer. You will be able to find me again at my cave. Give this day to rest. I need to make up for the sleep you cost me last night. Oh, well, she's gone. She rises into the air in a whirlwind of loose leaves and dirt. Shielding my eyes, I call upon her before she is out of earshot. Will you leave me without an answer? To what? When you arrived, I asked you a question. Have you forgotten it already? She responds with a rumble that might be a growl or a chuckle. Toshka. My name is Toshka. Toshka? It sounds more human than expected. I watched the dragon depart, marveling at the miracle of my continued existence. That she will not kill me the moment she sees me, saw me as was a dangerous gamble, but I believe it may yet pay off. I spend the rest of the day at my camp, resting my weary old bones and pondering my next move. Oh. In the morning, I rise with the sun, eager to begin my journey, or perhaps anxious is the more accurate word. For all the thinking and planning I did yesterday, my path forward remains an uncertain one. This dragon will not likely divulge her secrets just because I ask. I will need to start small, ask questions she's more comfortable with first. Show her that she can trust me with truth. Maybe even help her understand why I need to know once I figure that out myself. But how does one talk to a dragon? Do they make small talk like people? Do they make mundane observations about the weather to fill uncomfortable silences? The interesting thing is, like, for you and me, you watching right now and me, like, this is an obvious answer. Like, you know, a creature with sentience that is human-like is just another creature that is intelligent and we can converse with. And it would be a no-brainer to treat them and talk with them like they're human. But ultimately, stripping away the humanity, we're just intelligent creatures talking to each other, right? There's no difference in that. But you'll be surprised to understand or know that humans are not, in general, when humans have a singular understanding of something, They really ostracize any other thought, and it's genuinely bewildering for them to have any other thought, such as this. Like, you can think, how do I talk to a dragon? Oh my god, like blah 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 blah. But in the end, they obviously are just other creatures that they can talk to. But for many people, it would be like this. Like, how do I talk to a dragon? I've never done this before. And yeah, sorry, just a random strain of thought that I had in my mind. And it's interesting how humans and just people and everything works. You know, do they even feel social discomfort? Probably they do. Yeah. Oh, Aurelia, you would laugh until you wept if you could see me now. I feel like such a fool. But I march on, following my footsteps back to the dragon's cave. When I arrive, the dragon is nowhere in sight. At first, I imagine she is asleep in her cave, but then I hear distant sounds of splashing. There's a lake on the far side of her cave. It is possible she has gone there to hunt or to clean herself. I once snuck up on a dragon as he washed fresh blood from his feathers in a deep river. He never saw me coming. I can go and check out the sounds to see if Toshka is at the lake, or I can take this opportunity to explore her cave, see what treasures she might be hoarding within. I feel like just sitting and waiting respectfully where you are would be the way to go, but I'm a dirty dragon slayer. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna go get some water. And you're gonna go and subscribe. Thank you. I'll go to the lake. I feel like going to actually meet her would be better than, not. Than snooping, I guess. The lake is not far from the cave. Before long, I step out from the shade of the trees and find myself standing on a sandy shore. Reflections of green and golden trees frame the blue sky, and white clouds mirrored on the lake's surface. It's like something out of a painting, because it's almost like literally is. But it's not a perfect picture. Large ripples mar the image, radiating from a central point as if caused by some great disturbance. My suspicions are confirmed when the dragon breaches the surface, wings spread wide and a head held high. I take a step back to avoid a shower of stray droplets. The dragon tosses her head and flutters her wings, shaking excess water from her feathers. She is iridescent. From here I cannot make out the scars or patches of missing scales that betray her years. I see only the shimmering of her plumage and the metal glint of her scales as she dips in and out of the water. She seems almost youthful, splashing about like a bird in a bird bath. For a moment, I forget why I am here. Watching her, I realize that she's making a low, thrumming noise in her throat. It almost sounds like a humming. It does not resemble any music I have ever heard, but there is an unmistakable rhythm to it. Do dragons sing? Is there such thing as as dragon music? Probably, because they have their own culture and all that. Without warning, she turns her head towards me and her eyes lock on mine. The humming and the playful splashes cease immediately. With ruffled feathers, the dragon glares at me. May I help you, dragon slayer? I turn away hastily, the tips of my ears burning. Her voice has reminded me that she is not a member of the local wildlife to be gawked at. She is aware and likely offended. My apologies, I did not mean to stare. Yes, well, do not do it again. I am not here for your amusement. She sloshes through the water as she makes her way to the lake's shore. And that is why waiting at the cave's entrance would have been a much better idea. I guess this is better than snooping though, because I'm making my presence known. It's better technically, but they both are like bad choices, but Upon reaching it, she gives a great shake, spraying water everywhere in an effort to dry herself. I grimace, unable to avoid the shower of this time. I was not expecting you so early. I thought you would need to hunt first, and I know you humans are not especially efficient at it. I brought food and drink enough to sustain me for a few more days yet. I turn to see her settling down beside me on the shore, spreading her wings as she folds her legs beneath her. Noticing my curiosity, perhaps she offers an answer to my unspoken question. My feathers dry faster this way. I nod. With nothing more to say, we lapse into a silence which, to my mind, soon grows uncomfortable. The dragon seems content to lounge in the sun and amuse herself with my growing discomfort. In the end, she deigns to speak first.
I admit I am out of practice, but I seem to recall that talking is necessary when part of making conversation. Do I misremember?
Her tongue is sharper than the edge of my blade, but she has a point. You are right, of course. It seems I could do with a bit more practice myself.
Then practice now. Speak. Tell me what's on your mind.
The melody we're humming, it is unfamiliar to me. What was it? She looks away.
It belongs to my kind. It is no wonder you have not heard it before.
Are there dragon bards then?
Not as such. Dragons have no currency. We have no reason to perform in exchange for a prize. The gift of music is rewarding enough.
Very elf-like in that way. I mean, of course, elves do use money, but a lot of like in lore, generally elves like music and nature and that kind of thing.
If we like to sing, we sing, and if we do not, we do not.
I see. Our answer brings yet more questions to light. I cannot help but wonder why dragons hoard treasure if it has no economical value to them. But I'm also curious about dragon music.
Ask about treasure or ask about song? I'll ask about treasure, why not?
I personally would ask about the song, but treasure is also interesting.
If you have no need of currency, why do your kind hoard treasure?
She makes a low, disapproving sound in the back of her throat.
Do not mistake tactics for greed.
Tactics?
We do not have any particular love for silver and gold. That is a trait unique to your kind. We simply realized that the more of these things we took, then the less of them you had to support your war efforts.
So it was never about the treasure itself, it was about taking away our resources.
Exactly.
Although, in D&D, some dragons can actually they actually have a want to hoard treasure, and also in D&D, a lot of high level spells require you to have a lot of gold. So dragons would hoard it because dragons are magical creatures, and in general, yeah, some dragons can actually go mad, can go mad with wanting to protect or hoard as much treasure as possible, because treasure is cool, treasure is good for them, and yeah, again, fascinating and cool. Dragons are cool. Okay, shush.
Although I admit not all human treasures are worthless. I once saw a painting of a brilliant sunset, all flaming gold and burnt orange. A shadow moved through the clouds, an indistinct shape sailing amid silver tufts of white. It could have been anything, but I knew it for what it was, a dragon. It has been so many years since I saw it, but the memory burns bright in my heart to this day.
Her eyes close and she falls quiet, keeping whatever thoughts that follow to herself. A friend of mine, a poet, once told me that art can only be born of strife, that to create true art one must experience true suffering. The dragon glares at me. It seems to have misspoken.
Do you think me a stranger to strife? That my kind have not suffered as your people have?
That is not what I meant.
Are you certain? Humans are selfish in their suffering. You believe that no other creatures could feel pain as you have, or understand things like love or loss like you do. You call your warriors soldiers and slayers and act as if it is your divine duty to eradicate us. It never occurs to you that if you cast us as beasts to slaughter, then you are appointing yourselves the role of butchers.
It is dangerous to argue with a dragon. Not that I would know from experience, but the risk seems obvious. But I cannot stop myself. I have seen too much innocent blood spilt, too many villagers razed to the ground, to keep silent. Oh yes, and am I to believe that dragons are but misunderstood lambs in wolves' clothing? You were no more victims of this war than we were the villains. Your kind committed atrocities, the likes of which this world has never seen, nor will again, I pray. You have caused at least as much suffering as we have, if not more. How are you any better than us, butchers? She stands looming over me, a threat glinting in her golden eyes.
We fought for survival. We fought to end the suffering. We did terrible things, yes. I did unspeakable things. But that is the nature of war. And I would do it all over again if I would bring them, if it would bring them back.
The grief underlying the anger in her voice is palpable. That dragons mourn their dead is not news to me. I have seen dragon cairns with my own eyes. But it is one thing to witness it, and quite another to feel it. I have lost loved ones and witnessed massacres and that haunt my dreams to this day. But you may have lost your entire species. I fought to protect my people, my way of life. I fought to bring an end to the war and bring peace to the land once more.
Really? Then I suppose we have something in common after all.
Backing off, she eases down and into a seated position once more. I relax my stance a little.
It is pointless to argue like this. I realized long ago what side of a war you are on matters not. The only victor in the end is death.
On this, at least, we can agree. Is that how you ended up here alone, because of the war? She grimaces.
Yes and no.
She doesn't seem particularly willing to offer more. Where do I go from here? I will not push. I will share something. So I've talked about this in other videos, but a great hack to a good conversation is to, one, talk about other people. Other people love talking about themselves. Two is to offer, if you want to deepen the conversation, talk about your troubles, things that you've gone through, and your growths. That will also trigger things from other people. It's a great way to continue conversation, and it's just good. Keep pushing. Ask about how she lost her family. Share something personal. A conversation is a two-way street after all. Exactly. See, you gotta also give in order to get. I cannot imagine the losses you have suffered, but grief is not unknown to me either. My father was a soldier. He was lamed at a young age during an attack to our hometown. The only thing that saved him was the armor my mother made for him. Damn. She was one of the guild's top blacksmiths. I was a child when it happened, but I remember the day he returned from the fight. He was ghostly pale, his eyes vacant. He refused to talk at first. When he finally did, he rambled senselessly. Even as young as I was, I understood something terrible had happened to him. The attack took place at the outskirts of town. My mother and I were safe the entire time. I did not know it until much later, but that was the first time my father faced a dragon in combat. The last two. He was never the same. He had night terrors and frightened easily. He could not stand to sit near the fire, even when it was freezing out.
If you are looking for an apology,
I would not dare. I'm merely trying to explain why I am. What I am. My father hated your kind, and in truth, I often felt guilty that I never followed suit. But I did not become a dragonslayer out of hatred. I wanted to end the suffering. That we were not the only ones suffering. I never stopped to consider it.
Tell me, dragonslayer, have you always been the odd one out amongst your brothers and sisters in arms?
Yes, I'm always the weird dude anywhere I go, so I chuckled, feeling some of the tension melt away at last. Blame it on my scribe. She had a habit of questioning everything.
Perhaps she did you a favor. Better to think too much than not at all.
It's a bell curve. It's the opposite of a bell curve. I forgot what they're called. We grow quiet for a time. Just when I think she has tired of me, she speaks up again, steering the conversation in a more friendly direction. She asks if I have any talents of my own, besides the obvious. We spend some time in shallow but amiable conversation until at last she seems to have had her fill of talk. With a ruffle of her feathers and a small grunt, the dragon stands.
I believe that will do for today. Will you be back more tomorrow, or have you had enough yet of this mockery?
Her words are harsher than her tone. Perhaps Toshka's curiosity has grown the better of her. I will return. But where are you going? She lifts her chin.
That, dear assassin, is none of your concern. I trust you can find your way back to shelter on your own.
I can, but...
Good. Then I suggest you start walking. Good day to you, Dragonslayer.
Oh. With a hop and a great flap of her wings, she is airborne. I raise my arm, shielding my eyes from the swirling dirt and debris as she rises to take to the sky. She sails off into the east, the exact opposite direction of my camp. It seems I am dismissed. With a sigh, I turn to the west and begin making my way back to my camp. I spend the rest of the day training and caring for my equipment. And thinking. That night, I lay down with a full stomach. The gentle glow of fireflies outside of my tent warms my spirit, if not my body. Sleep does not come easily. When I close my eyes, memories stirred by the morning's conversation conjure sights and sounds from many years ago. One day in particular comes vividly to mind. Aurelia was not with me that day. For that, I will always be thankful. I was on a mission to kill a dragon in the mountains, many leagues to the south, not far from another town. As farmers' fields extended further into the wild, they disturbed a mated pair of dragons living in an underground cave. A local dragonslayer managed to slay the male, but it cost the woman her life. The female dragon had not retaliated yet, but it was only a matter of time. My job was to land the first and final blow before more human lives were lost. The dragon was awake when I found her, but only just. She seemed exhausted, as if she had not slept since the death of her mate. She was an older dragon, her reflexes sluggish, and she was earthbound. The membrane of one wing had been shredded to ribbons in some great battle many decades before. Yet she fought with every bit of strength she had left, right up until the very end. I ran her through with my sword. I removed a scale for proof, wiped the blood from my blade, and thought nothing of it. Then I entered the cave. Instead of silver and gold, I found an egg. Only then did I realize what brought the male out of hiding, and why the female never left the cave to avenge her mate. I'd assumed she was biding her time, but no. She had been protecting their offspring. Unable to fly the egg to safety, she stayed and watched over until her last breath. A vain sacrifice. Without a dragon to care for it, I knew the egg would not survive. I lied when I told Toshka I had never considered the consequences of my actions. That day, seeing that egg, I realized how much blood was being shed on both sides. If Aurelia had been there, she would have wept to see what I had done. She might have quit working for the guild then and there. I knew I had done the right thing. If I let the dragon live, she or her offspring would one day come to avenge her mate's death. I was sure of it. And yet, what would have happened if my wife had been with me that day? Would she still have loved me, having seen that side of me? It's a pointless question, of course. Even if I could muster the courage to ask it, she's no longer here to answer. I roll over and pray for sleep to come and banish such thoughts. In the morning, I set out to hunt early. I'm not low on provisions yet, but there is no telling how long I will be out here in the wild. Better to stock up now rather than starve later. Despite abundant wildlife, I have more trouble than I ought. I'm distracted and a little sleep deprived. In the end, I am forced to surrender and return to my camp empty-handed. I take a different route back, in case I get lucky and find something I can catch without difficulty. Perhaps a pheasant or a lazy hare. Halfway back, I hear the cries of an animal in distress. I follow the sound to its source. A juvenile griffin kneels in the woods, panting and trembling all over as if from a recent exertion. Peering closer, I can see the steel cord of a hunter's snare looped around her neck. Her feathers are ruffled and muted, her tufted feline ears dry and curling, with the first signs of dehydration. Her ribs are beginning to show. Claw marks score the ground she stands on, evidence of what looks like countless escape attempts. She has been here long, too long for her panic to be attributed to the trap itself, which means something else, likely another creature, is the source of her distress. Before I can look for tracks, a shadow passes over us. The griffin whimpers in terror. On instinct, I reach for my bow. Go ahead, dragonslayer. Put us both out of our misery. I sigh, lowering my arm, as I watch Toshka circle lower over our heads. If I shout, she'll not be able to hear it from up there, so I open my mind to her, allowing her to read my thoughts instead. The reading thoughts part, opening your mind, is very similar to Aragon, because that's basically what you have to do. You have to open your mind and connect to other creatures and stuff like that. It's very cool concept. And I've seen a couple of books do that, and it's a cool concept. Yeah. Come to claim an easy meal, or is the griffin not to your taste? A low growl from above sends the griffin into a hissing panic.
She is not my prey for the taking. Besides, my stomach is freshly filled. I am far more curious to see what fate you would choose for her. I hesitate, sensing a trap or a test. What would you have me do? Is that much not obvious to you yet? Look at her, dragonslayer. She is wary, she is weak. Worse, she is wounded beyond repair. I peer closer as the griffin flails against her bonds. After a moment, I spot the injury. One wing flops broken at her side. To sever her bonds will prolong her suffering. Death is the only true release she can look forward to now. She can look forward to now. It would be far kinder to not make her wait for it. Do you disagree? I stare at the griffin, whose glittering eyes remain glued to the sky. Her captivity has not been kind to her, but she is not beyond hope. I have seen man and griffin alike recover from worse. Not often, but it is better odds than none at all. Recover? What hope of recovery has she with a wing like that? She's a creature of air, a skybound hunter, and she will never fly again. How is she to hunt? What kind of half-life would you have let her suffer for the sake of your hope, your desire? Will you try to save her, even knowing what it'll cost her? Or will you set aside your prideful hope to end her suffering now, while it is still in your power to do so? Whatever you choose, do not leave her as she is, alone and suffering. That would be the unkindest choice of all. Ooh. I will preface this by saying that there is no right answer. It really depends. A part of me is like, I want to befriend the griffin, get some splints and put it on the wing. Maybe it becomes a friend for long term, and in the end, it could fly. But I don't know the griffin. I don't know the lore. I don't know anything. So I think putting the griffin out of the misery is it would be the way to go. But I'll set the griffin free. Without a word, I begin removing my upper garments. Dragonslayer, what are you doing? We need something to cover her head, like blinders for a hawk. My comparisons probably went over her head, falconry being an unlikely pastime for a dragon, but she seems to understand anyway. Once my shirt is off, I approach the griffin one careful step at a time. She begins to flap and fuss, hissing and snapping at me, but she keeps one eye always on the sky. That distraction gives me just enough of an opening to make my move. Leaping forward, I thrust my shirt over the griffin's head. I cling to her as she tries to shake it off, and wrap the shirt around her head so that it blocks out her vision entirely. Once I have blinded her, she stops fighting me. She shivers in my arms. I pull my hunting knife from my boot and slip it under the noose around her neck. I slice through the rope in one swift motion. This cord falls away. I release the griffin, pulling off the makeshift blindfold as I step out of her way. She leaps out of arm's reach and bolts for the woods, stumbling over herself and her awkward, shattered wing. A bit of anxiety forms in my stomach as I watch her go. Have I made the right choice? Will she survive after all? Or was it all for naught? And the real answer is, there's no answer. Life is full of gray areas and not real answers. So, yeah, there is no real answer. A selfish choice, but not a surprising one, I suppose. She rakes her voice across my mind like talons on steel, as if to wound me with her words. Her disappointment could not be clearer. Her wing is broken. She may not be. In time, she might be able to adapt to her new life. Even if she cannot fly, at least she can still see the sky. Toshka is silent for a moment, just trying to begin to believe I have won the argument. She speaks again. You think that a blessing, do you, to gaze forever upon that which you love the most and can never have again? I believe it is better than the alternative. And that, Dragonslayer, is where you and I differ. Oh. She circles higher, then disappears from view entirely. Headed, I assume, back to her cave. If this was a test, it seems I have failed it. And yet I cannot bring myself to regret my choice. The thing is, there are many things in life where you might not be able to do something, right? Or like some injury or something prevents you from doing the thing that you love or you want to the most.
And it feels like there's no point in living it because you can't do that. You can't do that anymore. But life is more than just that one thing. And yes, you can feel trapped, but there are ways that you can do and explore to do other things and to give it more meaning. So if you have a chance, life is about chances. In this case, yes, the griffin, its identity is to fly, right? It's a flying hunter. That is its core identity. That is what it was made by nature for, and that is what it will crave and want. But that does not mean that it can't live a life on the ground too. Yes, it's terrible and horrible to feel that, but life is about chances. Life is about choices. And yes, it may not be able to live like before, but it can at least live in a new, different way and still do things that it could appreciate and love and all that. I feel like just because it couldn't fly, even though it's a big part of it, does not mean that it couldn't live more and do more in its life. I don't think it's worth ending its life, or if even though a core of its identity is not part of it anymore, it would still, it could still live. It could still do a lot. I think that's a chance worth taking. And yeah, back to the game for my awkward talking part. Death. There is no coming back from it. But life. As long as there is life, there is hope. Perhaps Toshka will come to understand that too, someday. I return to camp to eat, clean up, and change into a fresh set of clothes. Later in the afternoon, I make my way to Toshka's cave. I find her perched on top of the entrance, her eyes closed as though she's asleep. Her eyes opened at my approach, but she does not bother to get up or even to lift her head. So you did come. I did, but I wanted to talk about this morning. Oh? The griffin. Did you truly want me to help her, or were you using her to test my mettle? Toshka ponders this for a moment before answering. It is true that I saw an opportunity and chose to seize it, but more than that, I wanted her pain to end. To die such a slow, agonizing death, there is no honor in it, no reward for the suffering. But that is its opinion. If the griffin wants to live a life in that and find meaning in that pain and loss, then that's up to it. And maybe it can feel recuperated, even though it can't do a big thing, but that's not on you to judge on it, right? So, yeah. Only pain and then death and no way to stop it. She grimaces. The tip of her tail flicks back and forth in agitation. Tell me, dragonslayer, would you want to die like that? Of course not. Who would choose such a fate? I thought not. Tell me, how would you have it happen? What would be fitting for Marius, the dragonslayer? Save. So I think this is where the dragon's gonna be like, oh no, something bad happened to me, and now I want to also kind of, go out that way, because that is the coolest thing to do. Yeah, totally. What does it matter? We have no control over our fate anyways. I'm not sure. Is there truly such a thing as a good death? Yeah, I guess that's what they both are very similar. I suppose it depends on what you mean by a good death, but yes, I think so. And what does that mean to you? She eyes me with approval. It means dying as a dragon is meant to die in battle. I thought you said you fought to end the war, to end the fighting, and so I did. Not all battles are fought on the battlefield. A dragon may die a good death defending her home and from an invader or avenging a fallen member of her flight. There is nothing here that can threaten me, no wild foe I could easily defeat. That is why I sought you, Marius. It is only with your help that I can meet my proper fate. So she hired me to kill her because she wants to die an honorable death, but is dying in battle the only good death for a dragon? Is there no honor in a long life and peaceful passing? It is not inherently dishonorable, but there is nothing peaceful about it. What do you mean?
A dragon felled by tooth, claw, or sword gains a right to fly in the eternal sky as a soul no longer bound to mortal flesh. It's a place without war, without anguish, without time. A place of joy and a place of rest. Those who do not fall in battle have not earned their rest yet. Instead, they must return and begin again a new life in a new body. Must return as dragons, the unworthy returns as humans.
So to your eyes, being human is a punishment?
Toshka chuckles. I'm only repeating what I was taught, dragonslayer. But yes, I believe it would be, for a dragon. You have been a human for as long as you can remember. It is all you know. But I have walked both paths, and I know the difference. There is no comparison between the two.
What is a difference, aside from the obvious, of course?
You mean besides being able to fly and breathe fire? Flight is a sacred gift, one we all cherish. Do not be so quick to discount it. But there is more to it than that. We dragons do not realize what power, what strength we have in these bodies until we take on human form. To be so much smaller and weaker, so vulnerable, it is terrifying.
Oh, I'm gonna quickly do a save. No, overwriting. Agree with Toshka, humans are nothing compared to dragons. Disagree with Toshka, it is not all bad being human. I will disagree, because obviously the humans have won, so we must have won somehow. I'm sure it is a very different experience, but there are perks to being human too, you know.
Toshka snorts.
We may not have scales to protect us or wings to carry us into the clouds, but we have gifts of our own.
Such as
our tools. We're inventors, craftsmen, creators. Few other creatures can boast the same.
Not all of you are so gifted. Some can barely count past 20 or remember their own names.
I suppose that is true, but we have music and art.
So do dragons.
And dance. A laugh comes bubbling up from her throat like a small geyser erupting.
I suppose you have me there. Yet these are trivial things. All your vices are steep price to pay for something so small as a dance. Little things can add up.
Dance is not our only virtue. We have others. Maybe you did not spend enough time among these to see them, but they are there. Toshka blinks at me with those golden eyes of hers, seeming to consider my argument.
I know more about humanity than you might think. But you may be right. Perhaps when looking through human eyes, I only saw what I expected to see. I may be more biased than I thought. Something worth considering, at least.
She yawns and changes the subject to a lighter matter, pretending boredom. She may need time to think about what we had discussed. Or maybe she truly is tired. It is hard to tell with a dragon. The rest of our conversation is amenable, if superficial. We part ways peacefully at the end of the day.
Oh. Okay.
As night falls, I mull over what I have learned thus far. Toshka wants to die with honor. She believes that dragons who do not find peace in the eternal sky, while those who do are reincarnated. She does not want to return to this world when she dies, not as a dragon and certainly not as a human. So she wants me to kill her while she is still able to fight. It is clear that she does not consider hiring me a form of suicide, but I am not so sure I agree. My hand will hold the sword while I swing it, but will it be my will or hers that drives it home? The more we speak, the less I am certain of my purpose here. And yet I made a solemn vow. At times like this, I usually ask myself what Aurelia would do. Break the vow! She was always so kind, so generous, and just. But for once, even that question brings me to no clarity. I have no idea what she would do if she stood here where I do now. Towards the end of her life, she sometimes begged for death. But she was ill for a long time, delirious with fever and weary of the suffering. Toshka seems healthy enough for an older dragon. Like me, she's a little slower, a little achier than she used to be, but she can still hunt and fly and breathe fire. She might have several years ahead of her before age or illness begins to weigh her down, and so much could happen in that time. Is it right to sacrifice so much potential? And yet, she is a dragon. I'm a dragon slayer. To kill her is to fulfill my purpose. Purposes can change and stuff. So, why am I filled with such doubt? In the morning, I rise early once again to hunt. This time, thankfully, I manage to catch a pheasant. Yet there is no satisfaction in it for me today. My head is still too full of questions with no answers. Once my stomach is full and my campfire quenched, I follow the now familiar path to Toshka's cave. I hear her before I see her. A great roar echoes through the forest and the marrows of my bones. Before I know it, I'm racing against my beating heart towards the sound of battle. When I reach the cave, I find Toshka on her guard at the center of the clearing. Standing before her, I spot an unfortunately familiar face. Gallus, a fellow member of my guild, one of the more battle-hungry among us. He joined the guild a little too late to face a dragon himself, though I trained him for it just the same. He's a mercenary spirit, strong but impatient. I have long suspected his fierceness in battle, but has its roots with old frustrations. By the time he was able to join the war, it was already over. His quick reflexes are making him a formidable foe in spite of his brashness. If this were a real fight, his overeagerness would be the death of him. Facing a dragon who wants to die, however, certainly gives Gallus an advantage. Do not intervene. Gallus has not noticed me yet, but the startling hiss of Toshka's voice in my head tells me she knows I am near. This is the death I have been waiting for. If you let him kill me, I will still consider your oath fulfilled. All you have to do is turn away. In many ways, it would be the ideal solution. I would not have to stain my hands with Toshka's blood, but she would still get what she wanted. And Gallus would finally be able to fulfill his purpose as a dragon slayer. Everyone would win. Except, I cannot stand by and watch this happen. I have to do something. Gallus is strong and fast, but wild with his attacks. He lacks precision, and he hates dragons with a passion matched by a few others his age. There's no guarantee a death at his hands will be quick or painless. If I fight by his side, I can fulfill my oath, honor my guild, and guarantee Toshka a merciful death. It will bring our story to an earlier conclusion than I'd hoped, but perhaps it is better that way. Or, I can try and stop Gallus. Oh, well, you all know me, and you know what I'm going to choose. No, I cannot accept that our story is over so soon. I will not let this end like this. I gave Toshka my word I would end her life, but I never promised I would not try to save her first. Gallus dodges left and right to avoid Toshka's half-hearted counterattacks. I duck down low and circle them, praying that I can land the first blow. And then I hear it, an awful sky-rending scream. Gallus crows, his blade flashing red as he flourishes it. Toshka groans, blood stains the feathers on her left side under her ribs. Not a fatal wound, but enough to slow her down and tip the scales in Gallus's favor. I break cover, sprinting towards his back, forsaking stealth for speed. Just before I reach his side, he turns to me. Marius, what? Toshka roars, startling Gallus. He whips back around to defend himself, and as he does, I lift my sword and bring it down hard against his metal helm. Idiot, what are you doing? Gallus wavers, and for an instant, I fear his head is too hard for even the heavy blow I dealt. God damn it, Gallus, you thick-headed bonehead. I dealt to make it. Just die for once, will you? And finally, he stumbles and collapses to the ground, unconscious. Okay. I fall to my knees beside him, gulping down air in huge gasps. My heart is pounding like it might give out. Perhaps my daughter is right. Perhaps I am getting too old for this. Toshka, meanwhile, is seething. You complete imbecile. I told you to stay out of it. How dare you break your vow? I have broken nothing. Oh, yes. Then why do I still draw breath, you? Faltering in the middle of her tirade, she groans again. Her legs give out from under her, and she sinks to the ground. The wound Gallus gave her must have been deeper than I suspected. This is nothing. It will heal. But you, Dragonslayer, you have betrayed me, and that wound cuts much deeper. I am sorry, but I cannot let you die like that. This man, I know him. He's my guild brother. He has never faced a dragon. In all likelihood, he has forgotten whatever training I once managed to pound into his thick skull. But he is vicious in battle and carries a fury in his heart that it has long festered there. He despises your kind with a passion rivaled by few, even other dragon slayers. If I let things continue as they were, your death might have been stretched on for days.
What are a few days in a course of a dragon's life?
Even an instant can seem like an eternity if you are in enough pain. She growls. I'm not sure if she's more incensed by my so-called betrayal or the truth of my words. For a long time, neither of us speak.
It's very long.
Your wound, Toshka, how bad is it?
Not bad enough.
Her voice is bitter.
It will take some days to heal, and heal imperfectly at that. But it will heal, whether I desire to it or not. It is a deep wound near vital tendons.
She tries lifting her wing, but is only able to lift it halfway before it falls down limp again. What? Why blink blonk? What is happening? Oh, okay. Have dragons no medicine for such an injury?
None beyond our own natural abilities. When I was younger, the magic in my body that fuels my fires would have healed such a wound in less than a day. But now...
She shakes her head.
We should at least bind it.
Oh, sorry, no. We should at least bind it. Says the dude.
Oh, yes. Tell me, Marius, do you happen to carry bandages big enough to wrap around a dragon's midriff? Or a needle that can pierce dragon flesh and thread strong enough to hold stitches in my hide? She bares her teeth, mocking me. I grimace in response. Point taken. But what about the blood? It'll wash off in the lake when it ceases to flow, which will take a while yet. I will be lightheaded by then, but the wound will close before it becomes critical, unfortunately. She shoots me another dark look. I sigh. What about you, Dragon Slayer? What will you do about your friend when he wakes?
An excellent question. He was likely sent by the guild to find out what happened to me. My homecoming is long overdue. I will have to go back with him. My family must fear the worst by now.
Your family?
My daughter and her husband and children. You have no... What was that word? Wife? Her name was Aurelia. She died many years ago.
I see. I am sorry.
Saying it aloud still hurts, even after all these years. I push aside the memories threatening to surface. Instead, I focus on the present and the immediate future. I will tell Gallus we killed you, that he caught the tip of your tail when I distracted him. I had to finish a job he started. Let him think he finally slew a dragon.
And then what? Another return you still owe me.
I know. I will come back. I have not forgotten my oath.
A fortnight.
What?
We have 14 days to visit with your family, and no longer.
Aw, she just wants the company. She enjoys the company. Aww.
If you are late, I will consider your oath broken, and I will take my revenge on you and your village. Can you agree to those terms?
Somehow I cannot imagine her wreaking such havoc on so many innocent people because of one broken promise. More importantly, I must consider, is it right to leave her like this? She says she will heal on her own, but what if she's wrong or lying? A strange idea occurs to me. Toshka, what if you become human for the time being?
As a dragon, you must rely on your body to heal itself. There are no medicines my people could offer.
Sorry. Wrong voice again. As a dragon, you must rely on your body to heal itself. There are no medicines my people could offer you that would help you in that form. But if you took one on, you took one on a human shape, you could stitch up your wound and stop the bleeding. We can, of course, return here when you are fit to travel again. Toshka regards me with a wide-eyed wonder. I love this. I love the direction it's taking. This is awesome. I love this. This is awesome. This is great.
But why would I want to heal at all? What would be the point?
I will save. To no longer be in pain, to be able to fly again, to be better able to enjoy your remaining days. I might click on this, go forward and see the response, then go back because I want to do this correctly, just because I'm so into this right now and it's so good. And I'm going to be a bit hypocritical towards the end of the video, but you'll see why. To be able to better enjoy your remaining days. Toshiko tilts her head to the side to indicate she's willing to hear more. I pressed outside? No, that's fine. Okay. Regardless of how many days you have left, would it not be better to spend them healing and resting than in agony? I can see how much your wound pains you. It does not seem right for me to leave you like this, even if we should be mortal enemies.
Is that why you would not kill the griffin? Did you truly believe she could recover, even with her ruined wing?
Yes.
Even so.
Toshiko shakes her head again, but her tone is less self-assured now. Perhaps I'm beginning to get through to her. We got two people with thick skulls right now.
I am not sure I would be any happier healing in your village than here, alone in my home.
Toshiko, I know you are impatient for me to fulfill my oath, but there is no honor in an unfair fight. It is only right that we wait until your wound is healed. That's called psychological manipulation and getting what I want, because I'm a master manipulator. Haha, take that. You're worth living, Toshiko. Since I will take time either way, why put yourself through unnecessary pain? Why risking laming yourself by staying here? Come with me. Please, I love the way the direction is going. She stares at me, the gold in her eyes glittering.
How will you explain my presence to your fellow slayer, your guild, your family?
I will tell them the dragon was keeping you as a pet, for its own amusement.
She recoils a little at the mere thought of it. And they will believe that?
It is not unheard of. I saw something similar myself once. A dragon several hundred leagues to the north used to steal lone goat herds and merchants on the road. He tormented them for days on end before killing them. Toshiko bows her head.
How terrible.
Yes, it was. I know it is not a pleasant lie, but a shocking story will make others think twice about asking too many questions. It is our best chance of keeping you safe. It is clear Toshiko does not think of much of my plan, but in the end, unable to find more agreeable alternatives. She concedes. She closes her eyes. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then I notice it. A shimmer around the edges of her form, the way a mirage shivers in the bright heat of midsummer. It spreads like fire across her body until it starts hurting my eyes to look at her. Blinking, I shake my head. When I look again, the dragon is gone. She looks so cool! In her place stands a willowy woman with silver hair and golden eyes. She is clad in a simple lavender gray kirtle, short gray boots, and a black cloak. That's not black. She seems so much smaller in this form, so much more fragile. Even the way she moves is different. She draws her cloak around her body as if to shield herself from my eyes. When she begins to walk towards me, her steps are hesitant, unsteady. She winces as she moves, one hand unconsciously pressing herself to her side, where her wound must be hidden beneath her dress. Do not look so worried, Marius. Her voice startled me. I've not heard her speak aloud since the night we met at the inn, when she begged me to slay one of the dragons for her. The sound is softer than the voice she has been projecting in my head. Her human speech has a gentle lilt to it and slight, unnameable accent. Transitioning is always quite difficult at first, but I will grow used to this body soon enough. I will not hold us back. Can you? She hesitates. Her cheeks color a little. Will you bind my wound? I'm afraid I have little experience with human methods of healing. Oh, of course. I help her sit down on the grass. Already a red stain is blooming on her side. There's no time to waste. For modesty's sake, I carefully cut a slit on the side of her dress to access her wound. Luckily, the injury seems to have shrunk down in proportion to her body's transformation. I pour a little wine from my flask on my belt to clear the blood away. Then I pull out a needle and thread from one of several pouches. This is gonna hurt. Toshiko shoots me a wry look. It already does. Despite her bravado, she sucks in her air with a hiss when the needle enters her flesh. I should say something to distract her while I work. You are beautiful, lady! Is there any part of you that is glad to have survived? Do you understand why I stopped gals from killing you? This one? Toshiko glares at me. If you expect me to thank you... No, I suppose I should not. There's nothing in your life to look forward to? But there's nothing in your life to look forward to? Nothing at all? She turns her face away, the red in her cheeks darkening along with her glare. If you had any inkling about how I felt about anything, you would know better than to ask me that. You are right. I have seen too much death in my life to purposely seek it out myself, so it is hard for me to imagine why you would choose to do so. She flinches, but perhaps it is only because the needle in her side. Death is not the enemy. It never was. Life is crueler of the two. Death brings an end to suffering. Life prolongs it. She shakes her head. You did not save me, Marius. Regardless of whatever fairy tale you choose to tell yourself, you have only postponed the inevitable. If you meant to be kind, why not kill me yourself as you promised? We have talked as you requested. You've already learned more than any man or woman of your kind about my world, straight from the dragon's mouth. No, I've barely learned anything. Everything that you said is pretty logical from what I can determine before you even said it. So you haven't said anything at all. I'm sorry, Toshka. I need to know more, Toshka. A library's worth. And this library is an endless library because you're going to live forever. How much more must I give to fulfill my end of our bargain? She lays her finger across my wrist and squeezes hard. Why not kill me? Because you're pretty lady. I do not want to. I'm not ready for our time together to end. Oh, Toshka scowls. How selfish of you. Did it ever occur to you that my fate is not yours to decide? Toshka, I only wanted to help. They should consider my feelings, not only your own. My body and my life belong to me. I may have come to you for help, but dragonslayer, but you are merely a tool. I can find another if I wish. But you're not, though, which means you want to do this, though. I continue to sit in silence, at a loss for words. She is right, in a way. Her life is not mine to protect, only to take. It is selfish for me to expect her to live simply because it is what I want. But what I told her is true as well. I'm not ready to part ways with her, not yet. I finished stitching her wound. For a makeshift bandage, we tear strips from Gallus's cloak. Once I finished tending to Toshka, I began the less pleasant task of dragging Gallus's unconscious body into the woods. Toshka watches amused as she walks alongside us. Are you sure you did not kill him? I grimace. He is my guild brother. If he does not wake, the consequences will be severe. Toshka shrugs. It would simplify both of our lives in many ways if he did not wake. I expect that if you blah 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 blah. I expect that if you told your guild he died in battle, they would believe you. But I would know the truth. Toshka lowers her head and smiles a little. We do not get far before Gallus finally begins to awaken. He nearly chops our heads off before recognizing me. I offer him the explanation that Toshka and I discussed, that Toshka was the dragon's captive, and the dragon is now dead. Gallus seems skeptical at first, but for one reason or another, he accepts our story. I even managed to convince him to return to town ahead of us to deliver the good news, that we were alive and the dragon is dead. He seems excited to tell the tale of our adventure together. No doubt it is the most thrilling thing that happened to him in quite some time. Chances are good his enthusiasm will lead to exaggeration. It will not surprise me if he organizes a parade in honor of himself. In our honor himself. Oh, our honor. Okay, I thought he would do it for himself only. Yet it is the smallest price to pay for the time it will give Toshka and I to prepare for the questions we will face upon our arrival. Once we reach my camp, Toshka helps me pack up. Together we begin to make our way down to the mountains towards the valley I call home. The days that follow pass quietly. Sometimes Toshka and I talk. Often we are content to walk in amiable silence, listening to the birds sing and the leaves crunch beneath our feet. She is slowed by her wound, but she never complains. She often refuses my help, even when she would do better to accept it. More than once, we have to stop suddenly for pulled stitches or a spell of dizziness. Only then does she allow herself to grumble or two, mostly by the frailty of her current form. At night, she amuses herself by watching me start each campfire as humans do, with stone rather than breath. She seems to find it almost endearing, in a slightly insulting sort of way. I entreat her to let me hunt for us both. We do not know what would happen to Toshka's bandages or stitches if she were to transform back into a dragon. I have no desire to find out the hard way. It would be cool if the DM allowed the bandages to, also grow in size, but, She agrees but disapproves of my methods. When she complains, I remind her that I can't simply swoop down on my prey and swallow it whole. She does not deign to dignify that with a response. Eventually, we reach the edge of the forest. We can see the glow of my village ahead of us. Less than half a day's journey away now. As I set up camp, I noticed Toshka staring at the thatched rooftops in the distance, an unreadable expression on her face. Okay. Say nothing. Ask her what she is thinking. Try to comfort her by telling her good things about the village. Take her mind off her worries by telling her about my family. This one? Toshka, since we will be staying with them for a while, would you like to hear about my family? She does not answer, but sends a curious glance my way. I begin telling her their names. Valeria, my daughter, her husband Lucius, and their children Randall and Jackin. The daughter and husband have great names. The grandkids, not so much. They live in a modest home just down the road from my own. Valeria wants me to come live with them, but I'm not ready to give up my peace and quiet just yet. Randall and Jackin are good boys, but young and spirited. They have not yet learned the value of silence or how to enjoy the precious space between things that gives them room to pause and breathe. They take after their father, Lucius, whose light burns as bright as the candles he sells. When he and Valeria met years ago, while she still lived under my roof, it was because of those candles. Valeria got it into her head to leave a candle lit for me on the nights I returned home late. She used to buy them from Lucius and his father. Lucius used to give her discounts, paying the difference out of his own pocket until Valeria wised up. She was often offended at first, thinking he pitied her, but in the end she forgave him and eventually married him. You love them both very much, I can tell. Toshka's voice interrupts my reverie. I had almost forgotten I was speaking to anyone at all, so lost as I was in my memories. I've missed my family more than I realized. And now we have a new family member, potentially. Them and their little ones. They're my only family now. After all, I have no other children. I was an only child myself. They sound nice. They are. It is wrong of me to ask you to jeopardize your family's happiness for my sake. It is a risk not worth the reward. Bringing you back with me is a risk, but they would understand if they knew the full story. She looks at me, her eyes gleaming even in the dim glow of fading twilight. Will you tell them? I'm not sure. It is not really my secret to tell, is it? Her eyes widen, and she smiles at me. Marius, I know I was less than gracious about accepting your assistance, but I am grateful that you want to help, even if I do not always agree with how you want to do it. You're welcome. She chuckles. Thank you. After finished setting up camp, I prepare our food. We settle down together by the fire to eat. Toshka sits beside me, and rather than across from me, for the first time since we embarked on our journey. Part of me is pleased, but another part of me is dismayed. She is a voracious eater. She enjoys her food messily, and sometimes rather noisily. Sensing my discomfort, she slows down, chewing thoughtfully as she watches me eat. What? I am trying to remember. Remember what? How to do it, how to be human. I have not been doing it correctly, have I? The difference between Toshka's human and dragon selves is striking. There is a vulnerability in her voice which I do not believe I would have ever heard had she stayed in her dragon form. While it is true that you might draw unwanted attention away, try to eat slower. Quiet. I'm gonna get more water. I'm sorry, my throat is so deadly dead. I did not expect this game to go on for this long. I thought it'd be like a half-hour game. I'm gonna get more water. Give me a second. Well, it is true. You might draw unwanted attention that way. Try to eat slower, quieter. She takes another bite. I have to swallow a laugh when I see how hard she is concentrating now. She stares at the meat as though it might bite her back. Try not to think about it too hard. Pretend you already ate one helping and are indulging yourself with seconds. She swallows hard, gulping down the bite as she has been taking her time to chew. It is odd to eat in this form. My body's not starving, but my instincts are screaming at me that I'm not eating enough. So I feel ravenous until, very suddenly, I do not. You'll get used to it in time, just as you did with walking and speaking. If I'm honest, neither of those feel natural yet either. I feel as if I will stumble over my own feet every turn. My words tumble over each other on my tongue like somersaulting fledglings. Practice makes perfect. Easy for you to say. You have a lifetime's worth. Tell me, Marius, what else should I practice before we join your kin? Dancing. Etiquette. It is important to know how to act around others so you can blend in. Dancing, it may not be a practical skill, but it is an enjoyable one. Self-defense. It is vital that I would go with etiquette, but just for the sake of the video and it's because it's a reference and it's fun, I'll go with dancing. But if I were playing myself, I'll go with etiquette. Toshko's expression is a gold mine of emotions, shifting from surprise to confusion to a twinkling amusement. Dancing, and what do you think we will have use for dancing? Do you expect our town healer to prescribe it for my injuries? Hardly. I do not expect it to be much of use at all. But it is something you can only appreciate in your human form, if I am not mistaken. So why not take this opportunity to enjoy it while you can? She purses her lips, but she does little to hide the smile still lingering at the corners of her mouth. It is true that dragons do not dance in the way that you mean. For fun, we fly sometimes in pairs or in groups. We do our best to coordinate our movements to match or complement each other's. But we do not accompany it with music, nor do we embrace one another as you humans do. I admit it, I was shocked at the first time I witnessed it. I had never seen anything like it. And did you join the dance? Her amusement fades, some distant sorrow turning her expression bittersweet. I did not. Dancing is one skill I have never had the luxury of learning. Until now. Before I know it, or I'm on my feet offering Toshka my hand. Unfortunately, I am no musician, and my daughters tell me I have 2 left feet, but I am afraid beggars cannot be choosers. Toshka looks down at my hand as if I've offered her some rare fruit she has never encountered before, and is not sure she wants to try. Then she slips her hand into mine, allowing me to help her to her feet. Luckily for you, I have no basis for comparison. And I was always curious what it was like. It's awkward at first, teaching a novice to dance with no melody to guide us, the uneven ground tipping us up. But we soon learn to laugh at our own mistakes and enjoy the simple pleasures of doing something silly, merely for the amusement of it. I doubt she has learned much by the time we part again, but I have learned a great deal. I have learned that she has a softer side and soft hands. I have learned what she looks like when she blushes. In her human form, not in a dragon form, though. I gotta learn that too. And I've learned that she likes to dance, even if neither of us is very good at it. Little things, and yet I find myself preoccupied with them long after the dancing ends. In the end, it is Toshka who succumbs to sleep first, though she would never admit it. She has been growing weaker, and I would worry her wound is not healing as it should. It is a good thing we are almost home, where hands are more skilled at healing than mine can tend to her needs. I put out our fire, but sleep feels far away. Instead, I sit and stare out into the darkness, picturing the town lying just on the other side of the night's curtain. I try to imagine the two of us there, among my kinfolk, walking around as if we are merely two among many. No one special, nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, can we really fool them all? We get an early start next day and arrive in town just before midday. It is continuing. Wait, I need to see how long this is. I need to see how long this. I don't know how long it's gonna be. Give me a second. All right, so I have checked how long the game is, and apparently it's very long. That's all it says online. Also, if my voice sounds different, it's because I took a break from a recording just before I started this again. So it's been a little while since I recorded, just to get my voice or throat a little bit of a rest. This is supposed to be about 3 acts long, and I'm assuming 1 act is about an hour-ish. That's what it felt like. So I'm assuming there's 1 more hour of this left. It's insane how long this is. It's very good. I love the little slow burn, what's gonna happen and stuff like that, and development. This could be a really big novel, and I think it's really cool what's happening. And yeah, I'm gonna continue the game now. I don't know how to do this, but it's been a longer while between me recording. And for you, it's going to continue, so I don't know how to continue the vibes. I'm unsure if I'll do voices here on out, because my throat is a little screwed, because my throat is apparently it just doesn't want to get better and stronger, but that's just how it be. It is not long before someone recognizes me. Word of our arrival spreads like dragon fire. I see what you did there. Soon one friendly escort becomes a small crowd of welcomers and well-wishers. Toshka is silent and wide-eyed, watching me out of the corner of her eye to see when to smile, to nod, or to shake her head. I try to be polite, but the closer we get to my daughter's house, the more impatient I become. Finally, a familiar face emerges from the crowd, beaming at us. It is the daughter! Father! Valeria rushes to greet me, and I wrap my only daughter tightly in my arms. For a moment, it is just the two of us again. She pulls away, her smile turning a little sad as her eyes fall on Toshka. And you must be the woman Gallus told us about. I'm afraid he didn't mention your name. Toshka. A lovely name. Valeria gives me a pointed look. I realize a little late that she's waiting for an introduction. Toshka, this is my daughter, Valeria. I gathered as much. Toshka offers us a small, wry smile. Valeria clasps both of our hands. You must be exhausted. Come, let's go home. I'll send Lucius to fetch the healer for that wound of yours. Valeria becomes our buffer for the crowd. She reminds our well-meaning friends and neighbors that her father and his lady friend needs rest. My lady friend, yeehaw. Also, I did read, because I was trying to figure out how long this game would be. Also, the HIO page has an hour. They have not updated that. I think it's about a 3 or 4 hour alpha, which is really cool. But most alphas or demos are like an hour long, and that's what I expected. And this has been worked on for about 2 or 3 years at this point, and it's really cool to see how far it's come. But yeah, I did read that there is both a romance and non-romance route for this game, and obviously I'm gonna go for romance. I mean, come on, dragon romance. Now that's some good fantasy romance right there. I'm way too weird, and I've read too many fantasy books in my life. I should not do that. Yes, time to talk later and stuff. Is Valeria pregnant? I did not see the image properly. Finally, we reach my daughter's house. It is a small but cozy family home with vines on the walls and toddler-sized handprints on the windows. Once inside, I'm immediately ambushed by two small terrors, their angel faces framed with curls. My grandson Randall and Yakin, aged 3 to 5, cling to my legs and bombard me with questions. Not far behind them, Lucius arrives. It must be his day of rest. His day of rest! Bearing the same toothy grin as his sons, he hugs me too, and offers me a gentle hand to Toshka. Lucius, this is Toshka. Toshka, this is my husband, Lucius.
Welcome to our humble home, Toshka.
Love, she needs a healer. Could you?
Of course.
He kisses his wife, ruffles his son's hair, and is out the door in a flash. Not flash enough. When you need a healer, you don't kiss wife or hug kids. You just go. You go bolt. You do what you gotta do's. The boys, meanwhile, are eyeing Toshka curiously and asking more questions. Who's she? Where did she come from? Why is she here? Valeria fends them off expertly, and she guides them into the kitchen, telling them to mind their manners and that patience is a virtue. I am sitting up the warm water. By the time we settle in, they have disappeared again, bored by their mother's vague responses. I sit in a chair. Oh, well, Toshka's gone. That's sad. I sit in a chair at the kitchen table. Toshka rests on a long, low wooden hutch by the wall, propped up by blankets and a rice bag for a pillow. Rice bags for a pillow. Now that's peak baggety. There seems to be two of me on the scene. I don't know if that's good or bad. She looks exhausted and pale. Not for the first time, I wonder if I should have ignored her protests and carried her to town, rather than let her walk with that wound of hers. Oh, well, don't mind me, I'm just a very tiny man. Valeria, after ensuring that we are both comfortable and don't require anything else for the time being, joins me at the table. She reaches over to take one of my calloused old hands. I'm not old, you're old, Valeria. In hers. I'm so glad you're back. When you didn't return, we were expecting you. She squeezed my hand. I did promise I would come home. Oh, I know, but all the same, I can't help but to worry. Gallus told us his versions of events, but I'm curious to know actually happened. I glanced at Toshka, but she appears to be sound asleep. I move my chair closer to Valeria's and lower my voice. The truth is, it is better to let Gallus spread his story. Let people think what they like. We have our own story to tell, should we need to. But you are my daughter, and you should know the truth. As briefly as I can, I tell Valeria the story Toshka and I came up with, then I tell her the more difficult version, the truth. I look very happy on the left side corner there. She listens in awe, her body gone stone still. Damn it, Valeria! You should be proud that your new mom's a dragon! She cool! When I conclude my tale, she turns her gaze on Toshka, staring at her with wide, wondering eyes. Finally, she blows out a long, slow breath. So Mother was right. What? I never told you, but I snuck into the guild house once while you were away, just a few years after she died. I found Mother's journals and I read them. The things she wrote about dragons. I was shocked and so confused. We were taught from cradle to grave that dragons are bloodthirsty monsters who want nothing but our destruction. Yet the way Mother described them in her field notes, they didn't seem like that at all. Not all of them, anyway. But you're a dragonslayer. I couldn't believe you would kill them if they weren't monsters. So I kept what I'd read to myself, and I try not to think about it. Mother always did have a unique outlook on life. But now you're here. A dragonslayer trying to save a dragon. It's a lot to take in. My stomach is in knots. Will Valeria hate me, now that she knows I'm not the hero she grew up believing me to be? There's no fear like that of losing a loved one. I would rather face a raging dragon any day. She interrupts my train of thoughts by reaching out to take my hand in hers. Don't look so grim, Father. I'm not the child I was when I read those journals. I know the world can be a complicated place, and I know sometimes there are no good choices to choose from. I have a lot to think about, but I love you, Father. Never doubt that. I cling to her hand, grateful as ever for her faith in me, even if I am not entirely sure I deserve it. Also, Valeria gets her accent from her mother, not me. The creak of the front door and the thudding of boots in the hall tells us Lucius has returned with the healer. We rise to greet them. Arise, Igris! We wait with Lucius in the hall while the healer sees to Toshka. When he emerges, he gives me a reproving look. I haven't used reproving in a long while. Her wound, the healer says, has not been well cared for, and has taken a nasty turn. However, under his care, he expects that she can make a full recovery. And a lot of payment to you, huh, sir? Sir? Because you're the only good healer in town, right? He has redone Toshka's stitches and given her a poultice to apply twice daily, along with a small supply of fresh bandages in case she pulls her stitches again. We thank the healer, and I pay him for his See, I knew it. I called it. All healers are like this. They make tons of money, and that's all they want to do. I'm obviously joking. Healers are amazing people, and we need to. And there need to be more of them in the world. And they work hard, and they're so respectful. And yeah, they're awesome people. Toshka and I spend the rest of the afternoon with Valeria, Lucius, and my grandchildren. We talk only briefly about what happened in the woods. Valeria is quick to rescue me from explanations, promising her husband she will share the whole story with him later. She guides the conversation in a more pleasant direction, telling me all of the family adventures I missed while I was away. Toshka is quieter than I have ever seen her. She answers direct questions, but seems otherwise content to listen. In the evening, the six of us eat dinner together. I can tell Toshka is nervous, but she manages to eat without drawing too much attention to herself. Gotta eat like a cannibal, nothing wrong with that. That's cool. Bulgarian breakfast for us, please. The rest of us are too caught up in our own chatter to pay her table manners much thought. It is not until Toshka and I are alone again, walking the path from my daughter's house to my own, that she finally speaks up. You told her. What? Who? Your daughter. You told her my secret. I don't realize you were listening. She glances at me. If you had, would you have chosen differently? No. Why? I will save. She deserves to know the truth. We can trust her. I do not think she would believe me if I lied. I could not bring myself to lie to her.
I guess the second one would be. These two are the best options. I'm gonna go with the second one because that. Toshka looks at me askance. Marius, if you're not even confident that you can convince your own daughter to believe our story, how do you expect me to convince the whole village? That is a different matter altogether. They do not know me like she does. Perhaps not, but she is your daughter. Does she not trust the word of her own father? Of course she does, but she would know at the very least that I was hiding something and she would worry. If you wanted to shield her from worry, you should not have brought me here in the first place. I could not do that. I had to do something. And so you did, and now we both must live with that choice, for better or worse. I want to argue, but she is right. It was I who convinced her to come here with me. Whatever happens, I am responsible. It is a sobering thought. Walking a little further, we pass a neighbor's bright window. Through it, we can see a small family gathered around a table. I will say that I did want to go back and change my choice just to see what would be different, but I want to stick to how a story would go and how D&D would go, making those choices. A big part of D&D is rolling the dice and rolling, with what the dice says. You can get a bad roll, but that's part of D&D. Those bad rolls, those good rolls, those lows and highs together, they make a story of loss, of failure, of success. Those are all part of D&D, and doing the wrong choices are as important as doing the good ones. And in that way, D&D really teaches you about life, and I think is a great way for people to experience what they can do in life and the stuff that they can do, even if things go the wrong way. It's a part of life, just like everything else. And I'm in this random ramble. I'm gonna go back to the game. They laugh and talk and drink, while friendly flames dance a jig in the fireplace on the far wall. Toshka's gaze lingers on the scene as we pass it by. Still hungry? Not for food, no. He seems only to have heard me. Is something wrong? She shakes her head with a sharp, quick gesture, as if shaking off some nagging memory. No. I was only thinking. It was nice to eat with a family again, even a human one. Strange, but nice. I had forgotten what that was like, until tonight. You and I have been sharing all of our meals for the past several days. Yes, but it is not the same. To gather together somewhere safe, to eat together, simply for the pleasure of spending time together, not because you have to, but because you want to. Marius, you do not know how lucky you are.
I am Marius the Glorious.
This is what I fought for. Luck isn't that. Oh. Do all the dragonslayer. You're welcome to join us whenever you like. Yeah! A kind offer, if a short-sighted one. I almost wish I could take you up on it. There's nothing stopping you, you know. She eyes me questioningly. None of us mind her company. And I'm sure Valeria would not turn down an extra hand in the kitchen or with the baby when it comes. Oh, she was preggers. Nice. Your offer is it sincere? I am not saying you would need to come over every night for dinner, but the door would always be open, I am sure of it. She snorts, derisive, but her eyes are bright with something bearing a suspicious resemblance to hope. Ah, yes. I am sure I would be an excellent addition to the family. Tell me, do you think your daughter would name the baby after me? I doubt it. She prefers more traditional names. Pity. Dragon names are much more musical. I don't know. I did think about this when I first played the game and the name was revealed. Well, not first play the game. I mean, when I played the game and the name was revealed. I wonder if Toshka is a slight nod towards Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I wonder. It probably isn't, but it could be. D&D, you know? You know I cannot stay, Marius. And you know why. But under other circumstances, who knows? I might be tempted. Cannot or will not. Does it matter? The result is the same. When I am healed, I will leave, and I will not return. But while I'm here, I am grateful for you and your family's hospitality, especially your daughter's cooking. I look forward to sharing more meals together. When I reach my house, at least, I attempt to convince Toshka to sleep in my bed while I sleep on the floor in the other room. My house looks suspiciously like my daughter's house, but just mirrored. I wonder why. I do like this. It's a vibe. It really is. It reminds me of a Minecraft house. Using the John Wilkins. I don't know. It's the texture pack that Ren Dog used in his playthrough. That one. It's a good texture pack. Resource pack. I'm sorry. Back in my day, we called it a texture pack. Now it's called a resource pack. I keep forgetting that. But that's just how it be. It's all resources now. It's all the of the sources. She, of course, will hear none of it. At length, I realize that I am fighting a battle I cannot win. Just like that dragon battle, eh? Ooh, ooh. I surrender and cobble together a makeshift bed for her out of old blankets and an extra set of clothes. She curls up on it, cat-like, and is asleep before I so much as cross the room. Sleepsies. Despite her concerns, the following days pass peacefully. Oh, I did not mean to click on that fast, but anyways, the lady's back again. The same little Red Riding Hood lady. Without a hood, though. A report to the guild. To my relief, our cover story does not so much as raise a single eyebrow amongst my guild brothers and sisters. For the most part, I spend my days as I normally would, tending to my household and training. Toshka resigns herself to spending most of her time resting alone, per the good doctor's insistence. Valeria comes to see her whenever she has a moment to spare, and I check in on her now and then. We spend our evenings together, gather around my daughter's dining table. Toshka begins to open up a bit more, laughing at Lucius's jokes, the ones that she understands at least, and offering to help Valeria in the kitchen. She is quiet when asked about her past, yet she voices her own curiosity now and then, asking small, harmless questions about her family life and the daily goings-ons of neighbors. It is good to see her enjoying herself, and all too easy to pretend that things can stay like this forever. Everything seems so oddly domestic. There is no other word for it, at least none I can think of. Yet the worries Toshka and I carry are anything but normal. As time passes, the initial relief of homecoming abates, and insomnia and troubled dreams step in to take its place. One night, after spending God knows how long staring up into the darkness and waiting in vain for sleep to come, I slide out from between my sheets and light a candle. Kneeling down, I pull a small chest out from beneath my bed. The contents, like me, have aged considerably. Relics of a past life, reminders of what used to be and should have been. Mostly they belong to Aurelia. I gave most of her things to others in need, as she asked me to do before she died. Her field notes from our many adventures together are kept in our guild's archives. But I kept a few things for myself. A favorite dress she used to wear when we walked together, pressed flowers from when we courted, a note she once hid in my bag when she was too sick to join me on a quest, and a journal, not her field notes, but a private diary she kept for herself. Rude, can't look at that, even if the person's dead. I have reread it many a sleepless night. I can still hear her voice when I read her writing, though it has grown fainter over time. Settling back down on my bed, I open the journal to a random entry. I remember this one. Aurelia was a mother by this time and no longer accompanied me on my quests, but she kept her research at the guild and began delving deeper than ever into dragon lore. On this particular day, she seemed to be preoccupied with the legends about shapeshifting. Even in her private journal, Aurelia wrote often about dragons. In this entry, she wondered whether they walked among humans after all, not only to spy on us, but to coexist with us in the only way they could. A soft rapping at my door disturbs my reverie. Reverie. Come in. The door opens to reveal Toshka, who comes bearing a candle of her own. I'm sorry, I need warm water. My throat is degrading very fast. I saw the light beneath your door. I thought we could keep each other company, since sleep seems to have declined both of our invitations. Of course, come in. Let us talk in the kitchen. Toshka casts a curious glance at the journal and open chest on the floor. I replace one in the other before shoving the chest back under my bed. Blowing out my candle, I follow her to the other room. She asks the obvious question, and as we settle down together at the table. What were you reading? One of Aurelia's old journals. Oh, I did not mean to disturb you. No, it's all right. I have read it too many times already as it is. I see. She pauses, seeming unsure how to proceed now that we are here together. I will save you. As in, like, save the game, not save anyone else. Talk about Toshka, ask why she's awake so late, talk about the journal's contents, share Aurelia's theory, talk about dreams, ask whether dragons dream the way humans do. That's a good question. You know, I did not dream at all the first few nights. Too exhausted, I suppose. Do dragons dream as humans do? I do not know if it is the same. But yes, we do dream. What about? Flying, mostly. I suppose I should not. I suppose I should not be surprised. I used to dream often that I had flown to the moon and back. I returned to my flight covered in glittering stardust, but when I tried to tell others where I had been, I could not speak. A fanciful dream indeed. I meant it as a compliment, but Toshka's reply is dismissive. A fledgling's dream. I have not had it for many years. And what do you dream of now? She looks me in the eye and looks away. For many years, I did not dream at all. But lately, my head seems full of them. Many are about the war, or about what will happen if someone catches us in our lie. Have you had no good dreams then, since we met? She glances at me out of the corner of her eye. Is there a faint blush in her cheeks, or is it a trick of the light? Ooh. Everyone ooh with me. Ooh. Perhaps. She does not deign to elaborate. Outside the kitchen window, we can hear the crickets chirping in the field, and an owl hooting from a nearby tree. Toshka looks to the window, turning her face from the warm glow of the candle towards the silvery moonlight. We fall silent for a time, each preoccupied with our own thoughts. There's something I have been wanting to ask, but was never sure how to bring it up. She has alluded more than once in our conversations to the time she has spent as a human. She seems far more experienced with it than I expected, and it has made me wonder. I can't say it once more. Did it take her long to find me? Exactly how much time has she spent in human form in total? Does she think she could grow to be? I will say the second one is probably the most safe and best option to ask, which would make her answer. Toshka, there's something I have been wondering. How often have you walked in human form? I assumed when we met that you had little experience in the matter, but there are things you have said that has made me believe otherwise. I have not been as shrewd as I thought. And once again, you have proven more clever than you look. Thank you. The night we met was not the first I spent in human form. In my youth, I spent nigh on 3 years among your kind.
3 years? Why? Yeah, exactly. Why? Humans are boring.
Why do you think? To learn your weaknesses, that we might use them against you. Mishnok and I even found work at the castle. I as a maid and he as a stable boy.
Mishnok?
She seems to shrink a little at hearing the name out loud, or perhaps it is that she's hearing someone else pronounce it for the first time in many decades. Mishnok was my mate.
Did he?
No, he was not killed. It happened after we left that city and the war far behind us. She touches the scar on her face absently, her eyes clouded with memories. Is that how it happened? Was the city attacked while you lived there? Toshka nods. Another flight invaded during the 3rd year. They were unaware of our presence, not that I believe it would have mattered. Mishnok wanted to leave. Our mission was drawing to a close anyway, but She grimaces. I had formed connections. It shamed me to admit it, but there were 1 or 2 people among the scum that inhabited the castle whom I could not bear to leave to their fate. You fought your own kind to protect humans? Yes. They were a rival flight, a bloodthirsty one at that. We owed no particular loyalty to them. But they were stronger and greater in number. They razed the city to the ground despite our efforts. We were lucky to escape with our lives. The people I fought to protect, they were not so lucky. Toshka, I'm so sorry. I almost reached for her hand before thinking better of it. She doesn't look like she wants comfort. It was many years ago. If they had not died then, they would still be dead now. Still, let us speak of other things. Please. Very well. Wary of such heavy fare, perhaps Toshka turns the conversation to lighter topics. She comments on the dinner we shared earlier, and we discuss our plans for the morrow. By the time we finally bid one another good night again, the sky outside has already begun to lighten. That's happened many two times. I am thankful when, upon returning to my bed, I find sleep ready and waiting to embrace me at last. A few days later, Toshka and I arrive at my daughter's home to discover an unexpected guest has joined us for dinner. Gallus sits at the table, regaling young Randall and Jackin with the tales of his most recent adventures. When we enter, he rises eagerly to greet us. Ah, Marius and the good lady Toshka. Gallus clasps my hand and welcomes and bows to Toshka, who has gone still beside me. I struggle to keep any composure for both of our sakes. It is good to see you looking well again, guild brother. How is your head? Gallus and I stare at Toshka. He is surprised. I am horrified. But Gallus only laughs and raps at his temple. I'd take more than a measly dragon tail to put a dent in this skull. But you, my lady, you've had far more healing to do than I. How do you fare? Well enough. My daughter senses the tension that Gallus seems blissfully ignorant of. Oh, Gallus, you little scumbly boo. She urges us all to be seated. We each help ourselves to the food on the table roast. On the table, roast chicken and vegetables along with fresh baked rye bread. My mouth, which should be watering at the sight, much less the smell of such a meal, is dry as dust. I, in accordance with that, will chug some water. Gallus seats himself on my left. Toshka sits on my right. As always. Valeria, bless you. It has been too long since I've tasted your cooking. Yes, it has been some time since we had the pleasure of your company, hasn't it? I only wish we could have given us more warning, Gallus. I might have cooked more if I'd known you'd be joining us. Apologies, my lady. I was eager to see how my guild brother and his maiden fair were doing. Tell me, Toshka, is Marius treating you well? Gallus keeps his tone light, but there's a curl to his lips that suggests an innuendo. I can tell by the thin line of Toshka's mouth that she has noticed it too. Marius and his family have been nothing but hospitable to me. I am grateful to have found myself in such good company. Oh, the best company, to be sure. You must have been lonely out there in that cave, lonely and frightened. How long did that dragon keep you, if I may be so bold to ask? You may not. A hush falls across the table in the wake of Tasha's sharp retort. I'd better say something before Gallus asks more questions. I will shave. Chastise Gallus, remind him of the oath he took to act with honor. Changing the subject, ask Gallus how his sister is doing. I will change the subject. Gallus has his little family to speak of. The war robbed him and his sister of their parents when he was quite young. His other relatives, if they still live, reside elsewhere. I've never heard him speak of them. He never married either. He never seemed to have the patience for it. But his sister still lives with him, under his care. Gallus, how is his sister? Cornelia. Gallus's good cheer dims. His calloused hands lower his next bite of food back to his plate. Ha! Take that, Gallus! You can now feel the uncomfy that we feel. She's seen better days. She's having the nightmares again. Oh no. I tried to keep the news about that damn dragon from her, but when the guild sent me to fetch you, I could not leave without telling her the truth. I wince. I am sorry, Gallus. I did not mean to cause you or Cornelia any pain. Gallus shrugs. No, think nothing of it. I was glad to be chosen. But Cornelia still can't stand to hear about it. She starts itching at her scars and sweating like it's midday in summer at the mere mention of a dragon. Had to have a neighbor stay with her when I left, just to be sure she didn't scratch all her skin off while I was gone. I hoped killing the thing would put her mind at ease, but it's slow going. Finally, Gallus notices how still and quiet Toshka has grown over the course of our conversation. Oh, my apologies, my lady. I doubt you like to hear about dragons any more than my sister does. Cornelia, you see, she was burned by dragonfire as a child when the war was on, and, well, she never really recovered. I see. I am sorry. Don't apologize, it's all right. Well, it's not, but it's not your fault after all, is it? Gallus goes back to eating with renewed vigor. Toshka, however, seems to have lost her appetite. Valeria and Lucius manage to steer the rest of the evening's conversations in a more amiable direction. More warm water, which is now almost gone. Toshka says as little as she can and gives away even less with her neutral expression. When the food is gone and her bellies are full, Toshka and I hasten to leave. But before we part ways, Gallus remembers his one last thing to share with us. Almost forgot. There's been talk of a dragon festival. About time. About time. Marius, Toshka, you and I will all be guests of honor, of course. The guild wants to have it as soon as we are fully recovered. Just in time for the new moon. Sound reasonable? Toshka looks us with askance. I speak up for both of us, knowing the answer Gallus expects. That should be fine. Very good. I'll let the others know. Toshka, this dragon festival, it may stir unwelcome memories from your time in the mountains. If you do not wish to attend, a guest of honor or no, you only need to say so. Everyone would understand, even Gallus. Indeed, though I would be gravely disappointed. Oh my god, this guy is so... Bleh. With a faint... that is normal to say, but, yeah. With a faint smile... he does not read the room. Faint smile. With a faint smile, Toshka inclines her head. Thank you both for the warning. But how often does one come across a chance to see a dragon festival these days? I would like to attend if Marius would not mind escorting me. Leave it to Toshka to commit to one event we would do better to avoid. What should I say? You know what? Why not? No, wrong save. This one. Of course, it would be my honor, Toshka. It might be too suspicious to decline her request. Besides that, I know Toshka. She's likely to go even if I refuse. At least if we go together, I can help her avoid suspicion. Of course, it would be my honor. Well, I'll be damned. I don't think I've ever seen you take a woman to a festival since... Well, you really don't know how to read a room, do you? Yes, well, I would not want her to attend all alone. Oh yes, I'm sure that's the only reason. The dude needs to learn. With a chuckle, he bids us all good night and takes his leave at last. Once he is gone, my daughter is quick to lighten the atmosphere. Toshka, you would have a new dress to wear for the festival. May I help you find one? That is very kind, but I already owe you so much for your generosity, and Marius too. You owe us nothing, Toshka. All of it was freely given, and so is this. I will pay for the dress. Toshka's cheeks bloom with color. I brace myself, believing I have wounded her pride. Then I catch a flicker of a smile as she nods. Thank you. I hate to be so dependent on your hospitality, but I am grateful for it. It's settled then. We'll go tomorrow to find your dress. Yay! True to her word, my daughter appears on my doorstep early the next morning to steal Toshka away for the day. I offer to accompany them, but Valeria refuses. So I hand over a small sum to pay for the dress and leave them to their own devices. Okay, that's nice. That night at dinner, Toshka seems even quieter than usual. Valeria is warmer towards her than before, sending her conspiratorial smiles now and then. Though Toshka returns my daughter's smiles, the gold of her eyes is dull. There is no sparkle in them to mirror Valeria's. When I try to broach the topic with Toshka after dinner, she waves off my concern, blaming her reticence on a long day's adventure in town. As the day of the festival draws nearer, my nights seem to grow longer. The festival itself will be an exercise in restraint. I believe it will be more difficult a day for Toshka than she expects. There's also the matter of what comes after the festival. Toshka grows more restless by the day. Though we have never spoken of it out loud, the end of the festival will also herald the end of our respite here in the village. I do not look forward to having that conversation when the time comes, nor am I eager to find out where it will lead us. She insists that I uphold my vow, even after all we have been through.
I will refuse, because I am stupid.
I will try to turn around. I will do as she bids me. I would go for this, but I think this is a better option to
Emotionally manipulate her to being like, you deserve to live, Toshka. You deserve to live.
Toshka is nothing if not proud, and she is stubborn to a fault. It will not be easy to sway her if her heart and mind are still set on her ending her life. But I must try for her sake as well as my own. Her fears about the future are real fears. I, too, know how it feels to be trapped inside a weakening body, to yearn for youth and vigor. And I know she wants to die well, that she might find the eternal rest she seeks. But why rush death when it is not yet at her doorstep? Surely I can persuade her, if not forego her heroic death, then to at least wait a little longer. I have to believe that there is hope, even if she has none. Perhaps I can hope enough for the both of us. The morning of the day before the festival, dawn arrives shrouded in grey clouds and grey skies. It is dressed to match my mood. Weary of pretending to sleep, I rise early and dress. I decide to go where I always used to go when I felt lost. My feet have walked to this path so many times, I no longer need to tell them where to go. My mind wanders as I walk, but my feet never stray. When I arrive at the cemetery, I am not surprised to see that I am the only one here. Well, the only human at least. Birds chirp and chortle in the boughs of shade-giving trees as I follow the footpath through the headstones. There are actual little birds there. That is adorable. A moth flutters past my face, its delicate wings almost brushing my cheek. Coming to the end of the road at last, I kneel before Aurelia's grave as I have done 100 times before. I close my eyes, asking my questions and listening for her answers. Always in the past, I found comfort in the echo of my wife's voice in my heart, telling me which way to go. Aurelia was always the stronger of the two of us. But today, no echo stirs. I hear nothing but birdsong, fluttering wings, rustling leaves, and the beating of my own heavy heart. Perhaps there are no good answers. I may have already walked too far down a path I should not have followed. Or maybe it's finally time I let her rest in peace. With a sigh, I bid the woman who was once the love of my life goodbye. It feels strangely final, as if I never quite meant it more before now. Then I rise, after brushing the top of her headstone. With the tips of my fingers, I turn away. Up ahead at the cemetery's exit, I see a familiar figure waiting for me. You woke me when you left the house. I did not mean to any breach of privacy. I was only curious where you were going. I called to you once, but you did not seem to hear me. I suppose I was rather distracted this morning. I came to visit Aurelia's grave. Yes, I thought so. And what did you hope to find there, if I may ask? Guidance, closure. I do not wish to speak of it. I do not feel like that's a good answer. I feel like I should say a good thing. Closure. I guess it's good. I used to come here often when I needed help or advice, or to remember what her smile looked like. I came today looking for answers to difficult questions, ones with no easy answers. But this time when I asked, I heard no reply. Perhaps it is a sign. A sign of what? That it is time that I let her rest, and found my answers on my own. To let go is not an easy task. I know it all too well. But it is the only path that leads to peace, for both of you. Yes, I think you're right. Together we turn away from the graveyard and face the street. Shall we walk back together? Toshka nods. Oh, shall we walk back together? Toshka nods her assent. In no particular hurry to return to my daily routine, I lead her down a different path than the one that led us here. This one will lead us home, but by a more roundabout route. Now that the sun has risen a little higher, more of the village is up and about. Shop windows and doors swing open as you walk by. The smells of the first meals of the day mingle with the dewy, earthy scent of early morning. Toshka no longer seems to be bothered by her wound. She looks pleased at the opportunity to stretch her legs. Turning a corner, one sight in particular draws her attention. On the doorstep of one home, a young man is offering a blushing young maid a bouquet of pink tulips. Toshka eyes them, curious. What an odd custom. No flowers for you then, Toshka. What do you mean? Why do humans give each other flowers and trinkets to declare their feelings? I will once again save. Flowers carry deep symbolic meaning. The flowers are a romantic gift. The flowers reflect the beauty of the recipient. I have no idea. Deep symbolic meaning, sure. Oh, it is not enough to simply say how you feel. For some, but for many, flowers and other gifts help them say the things they have difficulty putting into words. Oh, I see. I never thought about it that way before. Do all gifts of flowers mean love? I am hardly an expert, but no. Flowers can mean many things. There's a whole science of flowers and their meaning, so yeah. Sometimes we give them as an apology. Sometimes we give them for luck, or for friendship, or to brighten someone's day. That sounds confusing. How would you ever keep track of it all?
A book of science of flowers.
Different colors and types of flowers carry different meanings. I cannot tell you all of them myself, but it is usually obvious what they mean once you know the context in which they are given. That couple, for instance, their feelings for each other are no secret. It would be difficult to imagine those flowers stood anything but love. It may even be an apology for taking so long to confess his feelings for her. I see. That was a much more thoughtful answer than I expected, to be honest. It is still an odd custom, but I do think I understand it a little better. Thank you. Leaving the young couple behind us, we continue down the road. Gray gives way to blue in the sky above us. Sunlight begins to dapple the road. It may turn out to be a nice day today after all. Ask about dragon courtship, baby. Ask what Toshka's made. Ask what flower Toshka like. That's a great one. Do you have a favorite flower, Toshka? Toshka looks nonplussed, as if I asked her whether the sky was purple or why unicorns don't stand on their heads. It never occurred to me to prefer one over another. Do you like flowers? They are a pretty decoration. I prefer them to some of the gaudier displays I've seen in the homes of your so-called nobles. But they're not of any particular interest to me. No. Why do you? I blink, then chuckle. I suppose I've never thought about it either. Did your wife never bring you flowers? No, she brought me stories. She would tell me all the things she read about in the guild archives. She helped me practice my reading and writing. Toshka nods. Now that is a gift worth giving. Perhaps I could teach you sometime. You assume I am illiterate. Are you? I thought so. I have seen the way you look at science in books. It is as if you're trying to work out a puzzle you feel you should already know the answer to. I dislike forgetting. I used to know a little of your written language. Time and lack of practice have worn the memories too thin to be useful anymore. Well, then perhaps we could make new memories. Perhaps. She changed the subject, barring further discussion. I suspect she did not refuse me outright only because she wished to spare my feelings.
I don't have feelings, screw you.
But I cannot help but wonder if she has been reconsidering our arrangement after all. That would be nice. I don't want Toshka to die. Finally, the promised day arrives. Toshka heads to my daughter's house to prepare, while I don my festival garb at home. I do not own much in the way of fine clothing, but I do my best to polish up my boots and armor and don the cleanest shirts and trousers I own.
I am wearing the same outfit. Yeehaw. Once I am dressed, I head out to find Toshka. Valeria answers her door when I come knocking. She grins at me, calling out to Toshka over her shoulder. Toshka, my father's here. Are you ready? A moment later, Valeria steps outside to allow Toshka over the threshold. She looks glorious and not the same at all. Oh no! Oh dear! Oh gabagool! I know it's still a demo, so it's still a work in progress, but I'm imagining, I'm using my imagination, and I want you all to use your imagination as well. That would be very cool. Thank you. To my eyes, her new dress looks much the same as the old one. The same color, similar cut, but the fabric is of higher quality, and it fits her better. In my case, she looks beautiful. No, more than beautiful. I do not know the words to compliment her with. Even if I did, my mouth suddenly feels too dry for speech. So I say nothing. I smile, and Toshka flashes me a grin in return. She stands a little taller as if to show me that she knows I am staring, and she does not mind. Heck yeah, Toshka! Let go! Well, what do you think? You look beautiful, Toshka. You look beautiful, Toshka. You look awesome, Toshka. Toshka's eyes widen, and for a moment I wonder if I have been too forward. Then she beams at me. Behind her I catch Valeria pressing her hands together as if in prayer, grinning. Thank you. You look very shiny. Oh. I laugh, and she seems to relax a little. I'm afraid this is the best I can do. Toshka purses her lips and looks me over, her eyes sparkling. It is adequate. That is probably the Asian compliment, like the best Asian compliment. You know how Asians like the best compliment for a sweet is like it's not too sweet. That's probably the best compliment an Asian person can give you. You look adequate, you know. With another chuckle, I offer my arm to her. Shall we? She slips her hand into the crook of my elbow, giving my arm a little squeeze. We shall. You two go on ahead. I have to get my boys ready. Further back in the house, we hear Lucius call out to his wife, asking if she has seen his good boots. A quiet chorus of boyish giggles echoes from another room. Valeria sighs good-naturedly. Enjoy the festival. We'll see you there. Evening draws its cloak over the darkling sky as we walk together. We take our time. By the time we arrive at the festival grounds, the field is already teeming with the villagers eager to celebrate. The songs are definitely songing. As more and more people notice us, a disorganized chorus of cheers ripple through the crowd. They applaud the dragonslayer and the damsel he rescued from distress. I feel Toshka is stiffened beside me. I know she is vexed about being cast as the victim of the story. I am not exactly comfortable either being cast as the hero of a tale that never quite happened, but together we do our best to graciously accept our roles in the festival. Once the initial thrill of our entrance wears off, we are free again to explore the festival at ease. My neighbors, it seems, have spared no expense. Tiny decorative dragons carved from wood and fashioned from sticks and draw perch here and there on tent corners and table edges. Couples meander through the crowd arm in arm. Children fly draconic kites and play games of Dragon and Slayer. Heck yeah, Dragon and Slayer! Playing that DNS, baby! Growling and giggling at each other with glee. Performers of all kinds, from fire eaters to dancers, storytellers and poets, and entertain small crowds here and there. There are tables full of dragon-themed whimsies, from elaborate wood carvings to edible dragon-shaped treats from the local bakery. Off to one side, a band plays lively music to dance to. Toshka and I look around, pondering which sight to see first. I will peruse the vendors and food stalls. Let's try a few festival games, shall we, Toshka? Is your dexterity better than mine? Let's find out. Scattered throughout the festival, various games and competitions are taking place. We pass many by, including arm wrestling and bobbing for apples. We stop for a friendly game of darts, which I win, and a quick round of knucklebones, which Toshka wins to our mutual surprise. Knucklebones are just like rolling dice, so you know. As we continue along our wandering path, we spot a group gathered in an open area at the fringe of the festival. One man stands at the center of the group, blindfolded. The other circles him, creeping closer one cautious step at a time. Toshka stops to watch them, curious. What are they doing? Playing a game. We call it Sleeping Dragon. The person wearing the blindfold is a dragon. The objective of the game is to get as close as them to them as you can, without waking them, giving your position away. If the dragon catches you, you have been eaten and are out of the game. The first person to touch the dragon without being caught is the Slayer. They win. If no one succeeds, the dragon wins. She snorts, but her eyes are still following the players as they continue their game. Humans are strange creatures. You take the worst parts of your history, war, disease, famine, violent death, and turn them into party games and children's rhymes. I suppose it is morbid if you think about it. Most do not. There are only a handful of people still playing now. The rest are gathered off to the side. One of the players, a young boy, not quite yet a man, darts forward, dodging the dragon's attack and gleefully planting one hand on his shoulder. The group cheers. The defeated dragon yanks off his blindfold and collapses to the ground, dramatically, all the while narrating his own gruesome death. The boy, grinning, takes a bow. Toshka watches it all, head tilted, brow furrowed. We should move on. No, I think I understand after all. Without warning, she strides over to the group, who have elected to make the boy the new dragon for the second round. I am shocked when I hear Toshka if she can join them. Oh no, Toshka, oh no! They agree, and she follows their lead in forming a wide ring around the dragon. In the same theatrical spirit as the dragon before him, the boy announces in a loud voice that he will be taking a nap. The game begins. Toshka seems to have gotten used to her human form at last. She is quiet and quick, taking advantage of the others' missteps to make calculated advances of her own. Before long, Toshka is one of only 2 players still left facing the dragon. The other is a girl with red ribbons in her hair, Red Riding Hood II. Her flushed cheeks suggest she is equally happy to catch or be caught by the young man playing the dragon. Ooh. The girl giggles in spite of herself. The boy, hearing her, spins to face her direction. Toshka, seizing the opportunity, leaps forward and taps the boy on the back of his head. The boy removes his blindfold, staging a make-believe death in the arms of the girl. The others congratulate Toshka on her dragon-slaying skills. She's a dragon slayer now. Yeehaw, she's a part of the guild! She walks back over to me, smirking at my bewilderment. What? It would not have been fair for me to play as the dragon, now would it? Take Toshka to see the Fire Eaters perform. Peruse and winners. I don't think it matters if I save this over here, so I'm gonna say the foods. The foods are what it's all about. We wander over to the vendors area, where various craftspeople hawk their wares with loud voices and big gestures. Hawk Tua! Dragon bones that bear suspicious resemblance to chicken bones are touted to foretell the future. Practice swords and small dragons and slayers whittled from cheap wood line many a table. They would make perfect gifts for young would-be warriors, or so the craftsmen claim. One woman sells pottery depicting scenes from ancient lore, back when dragons and humans first clashed. Another offers us a deal, half off any dragon warding pendants of our choice. Toshka listens to them all in silence. She seems amused, as if the vendors are but children who know not whom they might offend with their clumsy, puerile ways. She pauses in front of the table full of baked goods. Behind it, the local baker's son, Marcus, is nervously trying to entice new customers. Care to try raspberry tart, ma'am, or perhaps a cheesy pasty? Toshka gestures to a small sweet cake drizzled in sugar shaped like a dragon's skull. One of those, please. One for you as well, Marius. One for you as well, Marius. I'm afraid I do not have much of a sweet tooth these days, but I will take one of those tarts. If you do not like it, Toshka, Valeria will. They are her favorite. I pay and Marcus hands the sweets over to Toshka. As we walk, she tries an experimental nibble on the sweet cake. She seems confused by the taste. So sweet. What were you expecting? I did not know what to expect. I have never had one before. Is it bad? No. She takes another bite, then another. I think I like it. Good. Yeah. Oh, as the dark of the night deepens around us, the torches seem to blaze brighter to fend off the shadows. The fire eaters step up their performances, reveling in the contrast of bright fire and black night. See? I knew this would happen. I knew it. That's why I went the other direction, because I wanted to give Toshka the best experience of fire eating, you know? Because it's going to be glowing in RGB at night, obviously. Valerio, Lucius, and my grandsons join up with us for a quick supper. We sit together at one of the many makeshift tables set up near where the dancing and the music. The boys regale us with tales of games won and lost, and Lucius boasts about how many candles he sold earlier in the day. At the end of the meal, my family bids us a warm good night before heading home to put their feet up, and puts the boys to bed. Alone together once again, Toshka and I regard each other across the table. Music drifts around us like autumn leaves swirling in the wind, inviting us to join the dance. My god, that was a big beeper. That was a big beeper. Toshka's gaze slips away from mine to watch others answer the call. Her eyes seem to dance with them as they link arms and join hands, stomping, stepping, swaying to the beat. Marius. Shall we join them? Of course! Why would I not? We practiced earlier just for this moment. And this is where you subscribe, because I was a true genius and knew this would happen, obviously. And that's why I did that earlier. I rise and offer her my hand. With a smile, she takes it and allows me to lead her out among the other dancers. The moment she is in my arms, I am back in the forest that night, dancing with her in the moonlight. We are less clumsy than we were back then. We move together now, content to follow wherever the music leads. It appears our practice paid off after all. You are a fast learner. You are a good teacher. Oh, it's the cute line they all do! I chuckle at that. Hardly. I have a little more practice at it than you, truth be told. Did you and your wife ever never dance? We did when there was time, but there hardly ever was. I suppose if I left the guild, I would have more time for dancing. That is what Valeria would tell me. What would you do with all the time if you did have it? I do not know. I have been fighting for so long, even after the war was over. I did not know how to stop. I could have left the guild, tried my hand at another trade, but I became a sellsword instead. I am now an old dog, too old to learn new tricks, and have no idea how to live the peaceful life I thought I was fighting for. I understand. I fought for many years when I was young. When I stopped, I found myself restless, unable to relax and enjoy a quiet existence. Your flight was peaceful? Did they not share your beliefs? In theory, yes, but they saw things from a different perspective. They acknowledged the eternal sky, but did not see reincarnation as a punishment, merely another path. And do you still see it as a punishment? She sighs. You are an older man, Marius, not as old as me, but you have lived nearly the full length of your natural life, just as I have. Can you honestly say you want to come back into it all over again? That you would not rather rest at last, in peace? I take my time to consider the question before I answer it. We are old, yes. We have seen many things, not all of them good. It is only natural to weary of it all. But every time I think this world has nothing left to offer me, it brings me one more unexpected gift. One more thing to remind me that for all I have seen, I have not seen it all. Not yet. Toshka listens to my speech with quite intensity. We are moving in perfect sync now. She is now in a cyberpunk world, synced up to me. Woohoo! I'm trying to be funny or say something nice and cool in between, and I can't. So I'll just play the game now. What sort of gifts? Well, for example, you. A faint pink tint blooms across her cheeks. Romance path, let's go! Me? Because of you, I have had to question my entire life. Everything I have done for my family, my people, all the lies I was led to believe about your kind. And that is a good thing? I think so. Do you? She draws closer. She smells like lavender and smoke. Yes. We dance together for another song or two, reluctant to part when it is over. Thank you for the dance, Marius. It was my pleasure. I kiss her hand and she beams at me. Oh, and she disappears into the unknown. Okay. At song's end, the band takes a break. A middle-aged woman with ink-flecked fingers and spectacles pinching the bridges of her nose steps up to take the band's place. I recognize as one of the storytellers we spotted earlier. The story begins as many a bard's tale does, with a fairy tale for the fair lady and the tall, dark, handsome stranger who arrives at her doorstep one night. The man is broken and bleeding. He collapses at her feet. She takes him and nurses him back to health. When he wakes, he is grateful to the maiden, but will not tell her his name nor whence he came. Time passes, and they fall in love, or something like that. But then one day, another unexpected knock comes at the door. A dragonslayer stands outside, looking wary. He asks if the woman has seen any dragons of late. She tells him no. Then he asks if anyone strange has passed through the village. She hesitates, thinking of her mysterious lover, who still has not told her his name. Before she can answer, a great beast bursts through the roof, shattering her home as it takes to the skies. All at once, the woman understands her lover's secret. As a dragon's roar rends the sky, her own lips part to utter a broken-hearted cry of her own. The dragonslayer leaps to her defense. He fights valiantly, wounding the dragon at the cost of his own life. But the battle is not over, for the woman has a secret of her own. She too is a trained dragonslayer, and she has spotted the dragon's weakness. She takes up her fallen brother's sword and strikes the fatal blow. Aiming for the patch of missing scale, she pierces the dragon's heart. Thus, she avenges both herself and the slayer who tried to save her.
Oh god, the voices in my head are going everywhere.
The end of the storyteller's tale is met with an odd mixture of raucous cries and confusing muttering. Not everyone knows what to make of her performance or its insinuations. What a bunch of rusty nonsense. All but jumping out of our skins, Toshka and I turn to see Gallus standing beside us. His cheeks are flush, whether from drink or indignation it is hard to say. Shadows haunt his eyes. I don't like the music. The music is scary. It is implying something, and I don't like that. Storytellers, eh? Leave it to one of them to try and turn a monster into a leading man. His voice is bitter, but his eyes are clear when he turns to me. He grins, but it does not reach his eyes. What about you, Marius? What do you think? It was only a story, Gully. Nothing worth getting worked up over. Yeah, I found it entertaining. I thought it was sad. Yeah. No one forced you to listen. Yeah. That's not the point. This is a festival about honor, about courage and sacrifice. It is no place to be spouting drivel such as that. The dragon was slain in the end, was he not? So what are you complaining about? I glance at her, worried. The red in Gallus's cheeks deepen. Yes, the dragon died, but at what cost? It killed one slayer and made an utter fool of the other. It didn't suffer for its crimes. It died a quick and painless death it did not deserve. Slayers do not punish, Gallus, we protect. So you've always told me. But people punish men and women, even children, when they're wicked. Why should we grant dragons more mercy than we show our own kind? Would you have preferred she torture him first? Gallus spits on the ground. I would have preferred a different story altogether. Why, Toshka? What did you think of it? His tone is casual, but his words have sharpened edges to them. Toshka does not answer right away. She is pale, and though her fists hide in the folds of her skirt, I can tell she is clenching them. I cannot say I enjoyed it. Oh, and why not? Toshka is all but biting her tongue. I fear she will give us away if I cannot conjure some distraction for the both of them. Luckily, we are saved from the conversation by one of our guild masters, who takes the stage to direct the crowd towards the far end of the field. The time has come for the highlight of the festival, the main event. Let me guess, it's a huge dragon that they're going to burn. Toshka and I share a look. I warned her about this. She knows my plan was always for us to leave before it commenced. And I know the instant our eyes met, she's about to conveniently forget that plan.
Yeah, just like in D&D, it always happens.
She does not wait for me to argue. She turns and walks away, following the crowd. I move to follow her, then hesitate, glancing at Gallus. He looks wrong somehow. Gallus, is there something you wanted to talk about? Something besides the performance? He looks at me almost as if he does not recognize me at first. Or perhaps it is I who hardly recognizes him. He has borne such misery in his life. I have seen him at his worst, or so I thought at the time. But there's something unfamiliar about the anger I heard simmering under his tongue. Something that suggests the wound it flows from is fresh. Is it your sister, Gallus? Is there anything I can do to help? Gallus hesitates, then laughs. It sounds hollow. You always worry too much, Marius. Cornelia is worse than usual, but... No, there's nothing for us to discuss. Oh, he knows, he suspects. He too walks away from towards the bonfire. I have no choice but to follow. Eventually, I found Toshka standing near the fire of the gathering. Front of the gathering. Her eyes glued to the bonfire. One of the guildmasters have taken her place beside the flames. Her arms spread to welcome the villagers who gather in a wide circle around the fire's glow. In one hand, she carries one of the small straw dragons we saw at the vendors selling earlier. We gather here today by the grace of the gods. No, wrong voice. We gather here today by the grace of the gods, who gave our great dragonslayers the strength and wisdom to overcome our deadliest of foes. No more shall dragon's breath sear our land and sow terror and death in our fields. No more shall dragons' wings carry fire to ash rain down upon us. No more shall dragons live while good men, women, and children suffer and burn. No more! Toshka's face has a mask of indifference as the crowd cheers. No flame burns eternal. Let the ones that set the fire now be consumed by it. And the fire burns out, let there be nothing left but peace. Peace for those who fought the fire, who gave their lives to the cause. Peace for the ones they fought to protect. Peace! The guildmaster tosses the straw dragon into the bonfire. It ignites in a rainbow of colors. The straw it is made from, a unique blend of selected especially for tonight's ceremony. The crowd erupts into whoops and war cries. Men, women, and children step forward one at a time, toss their own tiny dragons into the fire, cheering as they burn. Toshka is silent, her eyes ablaze with the reflected light of the rising flames. Are you all right? It is strange to hear people speak of peace while celebrating violent death. But those things that the woman said, I suppose they are true after all. What do you mean? No more. The war is truly over, and there are none of us left to fight it. I really am the last. She crosses her arms over her stomach, as if trying to hold herself together. Her cheeks are dry, but her eyes are wet. She is pale, her face twisted with pain. I will save, as usual. We should have left earlier. I'm sorry I had to see this. You're not alone, Toshka. You may be last, but your flight will always be with you. I think the middle one is the best one to put right now. She blinks, her concentration on the flames broken as she looks up at me. What? Maybe you are the last of your kind. Or perhaps you are not. There is no way to know for sure. But you are not alone, Toshka. If I am the only one left, I take her hand in mine. We may be different, you and I, but our paths intertwine now. We walk the same road, and it is a path I am glad to share for as long as you are willing to share it with me. I can only imagine how lonely you must have been all these years, but please believe me, you are not alone anymore. The gold in her eyes have gone liquid. She turns her face away, wiping at her cheeks with the back of one hand. The other stays wrapped in my fingers. It may be my imagination, but it feels as if though she gives a little squeeze as she composes herself. Is my imagination definitely? Yep. Marius. She shakes her head as if she cannot find the words for what she wants to say. In the end, she settles for the simplest response. Thank you. I press her fingers tightly between mine. We stand and watch the ceremony a little longer. I would turn away, but I know Toshka. She will leave only when she is good and ready. So I wait for her signal. More and more people add their dragon effigies to the bonfire. The flames grow fat with the feast, lapping at the black bowl of the sky as if they would swallow the stars. Toshka, there is something you should know. Gallus suspects us. The storyteller's performance only made it worse, but I think he has known, or guessed, your true form for some time now. Oh, and I thought his face always looked like that. What? She's looking past me now, and the face is on the other side of the fire. Squinting, I realize that she's looking what she's looking at. Gallus staring at us intently. I groan. It matters not. I always intended to leave after the festival. We will simply have to depart a little earlier than I anticipated. Leave? Yes. I wish I returned to my cave. One last time. One last time. The words fall heavy on my ears. We leave tonight. But Valerio! Toshka looks at me, saying nothing, but her eyes stop me in my tracks. She waits for my mind to catch up with hers. No, you are right. There's no knowing when Gallus's temper will win out over his patience. The longer we tarry, the more likely he will bring the guild's sword down upon your neck. What about you? What excuse can you make for your absence? I will think of something. But let us wait for morning, just before dawn. That will give us time to pack better provisions, and we will have the light on our side. Toshka hesitates, reluctance written clear on her face, but she finally nods. Very well. First thing in the morning, then. We turn away from the fire. Oh, something's gonna go wrong before that, isn't it? Crossing back across the field, we begin the journey home together one last time. When I awake the next morning, the first thing I feel is pain. Oh, fudge. Yeah, I thought so. I was going to say that something's going to happen before the morning. My head throbs, my bones and joints ache with a damp chill. My back is twisted from resting at an odd, unnatural angle. I lift my hands to rub the sleep from my eyes, and I am startled by the rattle of chains at my wrists. My eyes snap open at last. I look around, squinting. Oh no, I recognize this place. The guild dungeon. Is that going to be the end of the... Yeah. Ooh. That is awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. I really like this. It is very cool. I love visual novels. I love fantasy. I love D&D. Yee-haw the me-maw. Yee-haw. That's great. I really enjoyed it. It was way longer than I first thought. I thought this would be like a half an hour visual novel to record for yesterday. But I recorded for like 2 hours and I'm like, oh my god, how much longer it's going to take. No, not in a bad way. I just didn't know what to expect to be for how long it to be is be who. And I enjoyed it. I really do enjoy it. I think it's great. I think it needs a little bit more polishing. And with other visual novels I've played, I do think that it could use with a bit more art, maybe a bit more. I don't know if I would call them sprites, but a bit more character. The end for now. A bit more like character emotions, like, you know, with every talk the character turns. You know, in visual novels, like with every time a sentence happens, the character like looks and has like an expression. I think that would be cool. And I think Marius. I feel like Marius would be better if he was like also a character on the screen instead of like on the bottom left. That too would be very cool to see him in full force and action, and I can't wait to see more. If this is a third act demo, I cannot imagine how big the actual game is. I found out that this game has actually been in development for like 5 years now, because I found some videos about about people playing the demo like 5 years ago. So it's been quite a while going on for now, and I do realize that, you know, these are like passion projects that are done on the side, so they can take a while to get through. But this is awesome. I enjoyed this so much. And obviously it's going to take a long time for this to progress. And I do hope it does, because this is worth it. It's awesome and just great. And it's just awesome and just great. And you were great and you're awesome. And that's why you should subscribe. And you should be totally watching other videos. I recommend Tavern at Night. It's a D&D themed, slightly, well, not slightly, half romance, well, not even half. It's D&D themed romance visual novel that I played a while back, and there's like a sequel to it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. If you enjoy this, you'll definitely enjoy that one. Yeah, I just love dragons, and I love this, the story, the emotions, the way things are crafted. I think it's paced pretty well. I think it needs a little bit more
in the village part before the festival. Gallus is a prick. He should be guillotined, gallotined. But yeah, I recorded for way too long and my throat's gonna die, so I'm gonna call it for now. So thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next D&D, maybe. If I ever do D&D, I would love to do it like a D&D campaign on the channel. I think that would be very fun. But maybe one day. When I have people to play with, I don't. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Goodbye.